Call to order. Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of February 5th, 2018 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the municipal clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at mayor and council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all your cell phones. Could you please stand for a salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Here.
Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Cumming?
Here.
Councilman Ullman?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. Reading of the total list of bills.
The following is a list of bills paid since the last bill list was submitted representing January 1, 2018 through January 31st, 2018. Total 2017 reserve, $46,476.64. Total 2018 current, $2,271,552.11. Total capital fund, $38,610 even. Total animal control, 0. Total trust fund, $21,947.03.
Thank you.
Mike, may I ask a few questions?
Yes, Mr. Bruno.
Yeah, I just wanted to just go through some things. So I see obviously we're still paying 17 bills, so I assume we still have, these have all been, I asked this last time, but they've all been encumbered and included in the 17 appropriations / encumberment, so that anything that we paid and encumbered and any reserve associated to this has been included, net of a reserve?
Okay, so net of a reserve, are you talking about the budget?
No, at the end of 17.
Right.
We have actual expenditures, we have encumbered, and then we have a budget number, and then we have a reserve number. So it should be what we paid, what we've encumbered against the budget, and then the difference is the reserve.
The appropriated reserve, correct. The appropriated reserve, by the way, in your budget books now is down to less than 500,000 from the 2.2 that you saw when we were working with the temporary budget.
All right, and there are a lot of, from 17 descriptions as past due balances, so I assume we're now have the authority to pay people? Yes. Clean them all up?
Yes, and we made the time, this was the project, I think, I personally went through all the Verizon bills, and we cleared them all up, and we're still working on the Suez, there's a few accounts, and some of the PSE&G. I think we're better off with those, but the Verizon, there was some Verizon Wireless and AT&T that we settled up once we verified that they were in fact due.
And Mr. Statiel, I assume, has been fully paid up for his services since he's...
No, not yet.
Okay.
We still have bills that are coming in, and in fact, he's doing some of the work following through on some of the projects that he had started. The road program, for instance, is still being closed out. I'm dealing with paperwork on that.
Okay.
Getting the maintenance bonds that extends 2 years past the date of acceptance. There's actually a resolution on the agenda for a change order for that, and just closing out some of the grants, as well as he's still following through on the Prospect Sewer project.
Okay.
Okay? And that was all done in, with the blessing of the mayor and the current engineer.
Okay. I just have a few more, sorry for the delay. So on page 10, there's a lot of Mazzolino and Fury, and then there's a bunch of bills underneath that. I mean, there's a lot of voids, and then there's some checks that were written, so is this a cleanup, or what is all this stuff?
That I wouldn't know. I don't know why there's voids. I can't exactly tell you that. That Joy, for the most part, does the trust account work.
Okay. I'll email her. On page 13, it appears as if, which I think is a good thing, you spent $2,900 for salt, but you took out the snow plow reserve?
Yes, and that, I believe, that is also the plan going forward.
Good. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Anything else, Mr.
No,
Brown?
that's good.
Anything else, gentlemen? Next on our agenda is approval of minutes for September 11th, 2017, both public and conference meeting minutes. The minutes of September 25th, both public and conference meeting minutes. And the minutes of October 16th, 2017, both public and conference meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Councilman Brito?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Abstain.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Abstain. Next on the agenda is the approval of the January 16th, 2018 closed session meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Brito?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
Mr. DeSena, just, I might want to just follow up on the colloquy that I had with Mr. Bruno about this bill list. I just want to make it clear, there may be additional encumbrances to 2017. You're allowed to spend 2017 monies in 2018, so if there's still some cleanup and clear up we have to do, I just want to make sure you understood that that does not mean that there will be no further encumbrances to 2017. As the bills come in and if it's appropriate, we will be encumbering.
Yeah, I guess my question really is, so if we have the appropriation, the encumbrances, and then against the budget, the difference goes into reserve, which then flows through all through the surplus?
Correct.
And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yes, and I will tell you, I know that Mr. DeSena made a comment about when he had received the temporary budget document, that he thought there was a lot of leftover, like, that would
Yep.
fall into appropriated reserves.
Okay.
Subsequent to that, there was the normal clear payment of bills before the GL was closed out for the year end. And by that time, it was down to $700-something thousand. As of today, it's down to another $500,000. So the good news is for the taxpayers, there was only $500,000 out of the 12.1 that has not been paid yet, and it may be closer to 200,000, maybe closer to zero,
Okay.
if we have a couple months. But I know the concern was that taxpayers were being taxed for monies that weren't being spent to provide
Correct.
services.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you for letting me explain that.
Moving on to the report of the mayor. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Have a few things. The calendar, I hope you all received the calendar. I want to thank the Director of Public Affairs, Dina Burke, her team, and everyone in Town Hall who helped put the calendar together. Packed with a lot of nostalgic pictures, facts, phone numbers, and important dates, what's going on in town. Bethany Church, Rec Director Eamon Toomey and I toured their new facility, along with Pastor James and Community Center Director Bliss Varkes. They've done some amazing work in the building. We look forward to working with them to make their facility and programs a true part of our community. Intersection. Me, Councilman Cumming, Tom Sears, and our town engineer Paul Azalina attended a meeting in Hackensack. The people in attendance from the county were County Engineer Joe Femia, Assistant County Engineer Nancy Dargis, and Deputy Chief of Staff to the County Executive Mark Schricks. The meeting was very positive about moving forward on the intersection project. However, due to the town not doing anything for years on it, the project has to virtually start from scratch. That will not happen again. They need to review a current topographic map and a few other things from the engineer that he is already preparing before they schedule our next meeting. Emergency Services Dispatching. We hired a full-time civilian dispatcher who started on February 1st. He is now training with our existing dispatchers. He happens to be here this evening in the audience, Bill Billius, and we welcome him aboard. Police Department. I met with the chief, captain, and 2 lieutenants. We went over some policy and procedure changes that they have wanted to implement for a while. They have ideas and plans to update and increase efficiencies within the department. These changes will result in increased service and decreased costs, as well as better working conditions for the staff. I look forward to working with them to implement these changes. Commuter parking. I've reached out to some of the businesses in the area. They have expressed an interest in helping us make more spots available to our resident commuters. More info to come. Snow plowing and DMF. As you know, we've had a couple of snowstorms since January 1st. The feedback from the residents has been positive. DMF Director Dan Scuderi and I reached out to Superintendent Bill Lawler before and after each storm to make sure they have the resources needed to get their job done. Although too late for this season, we're going to research working with private contractors to see how they can contribute in the future to assist in getting the job done. Shared services. I accompanied Police Chief Glenn Hooper, Fire Department Director Bill Bilius, and DMF Superintendent Bill Lawler to a meeting with Ridgewood Superintendent of Public Works Dan Kiley and members of his staff. They gave us a tour of their facilities as it pertains to vehicle and small engine maintenance. Everyone liked what they saw and heard. Both municipalities are working on minor changes to the agreement we had started last year. We look forward to both municipalities signing the agreement and working together. Summer concert series. I can't thank Peter Neary enough for approaching us with a great plan to make it happen. Due to his efforts, we will have 4 concerts this summer. 1 country, 1 oldies, and 2 rock bands. Pete took the lead in choosing and securing the bands. This gives me a great time to talk about community spirit and involvement. Pete had a vision for the concert, put a preliminary plan together, and reached out to me with it. We met, discussed it, and it's happening. I encourage all residents to come forward with their ideas. Unlike the past, your ideas will be met with enthusiasm and encouragement. Ice rescue drill. I was happy to attend the ice rescue drill that the fire department conducted on Schlegel Lake. We thank the Lake Association for allowing the use of the lake for the drill. Talk about volunteerism at its finest. These people took time away from their families to come out on a bitterly cold night to practice for an event we all hope never occurs. But if it should, we know we have the finest people trained to deal with it. This is just one example of the numerous times the volunteers from our fire department and ambulance corps sacrifice time from their busy schedule to stay trained for when they are needed. Remember, they make themselves available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to selflessly answer the call when needed. We thank them. I was also happy to attend the annual ambulance and fire department dinners. I'd like to work jointly with the council at our next meeting to give proclamations to those volunteers that received recognition at those dinners so the entire town can witness what great things their friends and neighbors are doing. Golden Seniors. Along with Dina Burke, I had the pleasure of meeting with Mr. Kevin Lynch from Oritani Bank. In addition to reaffirming his commitment to our town organizations, we spoke about creating a walking path between the end of Hudson Avenue, and the Oritani parking lot. That will enable our town employees to park in the Oritani parking lot on days that seniors have activities going on in the Jack Woods Senior Center, freeing up those spaces for the seniors to utilize. I've already authorized our town engineer to commence work on it. Library. I had the pleasure of attending my first library board meeting. They look forward to further expanding the remarkable programs they already have in place for people of all ages. If you haven't paid them a visit recently, you owe it to yourself to do so. Memorial Field Committee. I also attended my first meeting of this committee. After discussing the long-term plans for the field, a lot of time was spent discussing how to best prepare the field to get through the upcoming playing season. I recommended the next meeting just be spent talking about that so a plan can be formulated to present to the governing body. Tax assessor. Our longtime tax assessor, Ray Damiano, has retired. We conducted interviews for the position and are happy to report that Murdy Aracetti, has been chosen to fill the position. Murdy has done a great job in the clerk position, and I know he will bring the great same qualities to the assessor position. Last but not least, scouting. I attended the Girl Scout Billy's baseball event to send Valentines to our local veterans. It was a joy to see so many girls come out to support the veterans. Even though I'm not a veteran, some of them gave me a Valentine, which I greatly appreciated. I also viewed a presentation from James Stickle on a great plan he has for his Eagle Scout Award that will also honor our vets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report of the council, starting Mr. Mullin.
Thank you. Mike, I'm just going to, no report this evening.
Okay. Mr. Cumming?
Thank you. Good evening to all. I have several items I'd like to mention. Some are a little older, but in the future I hope to be able to convey news, and especially good news, to you as soon as possible. First of all, some young men who shoveled. I want to start off by making our residents aware that some young men in our community performed an act of very good citizenship. It was brought to my attention that a student of Westwood Regional Middle School had a medical procedure before Christmas and has a long road of recovery ahead of him. During the past snowstorm, 4 of our young men from the community took initiative to go out into our neighborhoods and solicited work of shoveling snow. These young men were able to earn $235, which they donated completely to the fundraising page for this young man. If I may, on behalf of my fellow councilmen and Mr. Mayor and so on, we commend these young men and their parents for their actions. Without a sense of caring, there's no sense of community. We would like to acknowledge Jack Dugan, Robert Larson, Ibrahim Hameza, I'm sorry, Abraham, Adam El Muselmani. These 4 young men went out and shoveled snow to raise money, and for $235, doesn't sound like they charged a lot, and they gave it all to the other young man. I attended the ice rescue drill that the mayor has remarked on, conducted on frozen Schlegel Lake by the Township Fire Department. As a scuba instructor for 22 years, who has taught police scuba rescue to 2 police departments over the years and more, I was thoroughly impressed with their capabilities and professionalism. It was kind of like Old Home Week for me. It was nice. For more than 1.5 hours, 3 young men went into the water of the solidly frozen lake while others performed rescues with specialized equipment. It was terribly, terribly cold, and I was pleased to spend time with the mayor and 2 of Township finest who were off duty. On Monday, January 15th, we observed Martin Luther King Day. In the usual way, our meeting was the next day. It passed with some mention in the news, minor observation. As one who's lived through 1968 as a young adult, I wish to express to you that I hope that the time soon comes when all of our children can play together and will all be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin, to quote. Saturday, January 27th, was Holocaust Remembrance Day. I saw almost nothing in the news. If it were not for WQXR radio playing the hauntingly beautiful theme from Schindler's List by the great composer, American John Williams, I might not have known. I believe that the takeaway from all this is that it should be remembered that 7 to 9 million people were perished during the Holocaust, and we should resolve to be better, more productive people and to help one another in daily life. February 1st, there was an award ceremony at the Art Gallery in Westwood at the 5 Corners that was sponsored by the Art Gallery for like the 10th or more years. I'm sorry, I'm not sure of that, many more years. And the project was entitled Westwood Regional School District Has Heart. The students submitted projects, posters, and drawings around this theme. Many awards were given out for the projects that were made by the school children, grade by grade. It was posted on Facebook, and the ceremony and the drawings were truly wonderful. Parents and children were thrilled by this exercise and the awards that they gave, many awards per grade. It was wonderful to be there, and it was wonderful to see my granddaughter Gina Castronova was among the winners. But I was happy for all the children. And some of the educators were there, and the superintendent was there. It was very nice. On January 20th, on Saturday, I was privileged to attend the Washington Township Fire Chief's dinner with the installation and honors for outgoing prior year's chief. This was a wonderful time, a well-deserved ceremony, and many thank yous. Tremendous opportunity to meet and congratulate the new officers and the retiring officers. On Thursday, January 25th, the Girl Scout troops of Washington Township put together baskets for veterans in conjunction with Billy's Baseballs. They were care packages for veterans in a veteran's home. And there were cards for, I believe, actively serving soldiers. It was a wonderful, commendable pursuit for Billy. Billy Cook, who I was privileged to meet from Billy's Baseballs. The Girl Scouts put together the packages and made out many, many cards. This was started as Billy's a bar mitzvah project for his becoming a young man, and it's gone on for a couple of years now. And he continues these worthwhile pursuits. It was a great community activity supported by your council, and council people were there and in attendance. I believe Mr. Ullman sent water for refreshments, and Council President DeSena, I think, was there just before I was. But this was a wonderful thing, and that's some of the good news in our township. Thank you.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes, thank you. I don't really have any reports tonight, other than that we have the Contemporary Women's Club here tonight, which I think is spectacular. I know I've written some op-eds about the work they do around town and lovely flower plantings that they do around the library, so we're happy to have them here tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Cassio?
Thank you, Mr. Senate. Thank you for everyone coming out in the frigid weather to join us tonight. And you at home, I think it's a good idea to stay at home on a night like tonight where it's nice and warm. But I want to thank the police officers in the Township of Washington. I had two personal incidences. My daughter was in a car accident, and my father-in-law had a medical incident. And our professionals in the police department do a fine and outstanding job. I can't commend them enough for their actions and their kindness and their calmness performing their services. And I think sometimes we all take for granted when we don't use their services that, the police are around, but, when you need them, they're there. Also, we had the use of Hillsdale Mutual Aid because Washington Township ambulance was out on, I guess it was their day off, and they performed very professionally. So I'm very happy, and I'm very satisfied and confident that if there's ever an emergency in Washington Township, it'll be handled very, very well, and you can rest assured that we'll get the best professional care and kindness out there. So I thank them very much for their service. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Cassio.
Council President?
Yes, Mr. Conley.
I do apologize. In my disorder, there was one more very short page.
Go ahead.
For public good. There are ADA dances for disabled adults, and they are not far away. Everyone in Washington Township who is ADA or has an ADA family member between teen and adult is invited to join. Often the entry is only $5 to help cover the contributed DJ and refreshments, which the people enjoy very much. Registration forms are available. I'll give you the internet address, or you can email me and I will forward you direct contact information at Cumming@Township of Washington and so on and so forth. But their email address is Fairlawn, one word, Fairlawn ADA Committee all together, fairlawnadacommittee@gmail.com. Everyone is welcome. It's a wonderful adult and young adult supervised activity. The next dance is March 9th, St. Patrick's Day, with that theme, and that should be a nice thing. If you know anyone who's ADA, please have them contact me so we can get their young person out of the house for a pleasant supervised activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings.
Sorry.
Very quickly, thank you to the ambulance corps and the fire department for having me and my spouse at the installation ceremonies. It was very nice. It was nice to meet everybody. Also, thank you to the Girl Scouts and Billy's Baseball for putting together a great function that day. It was very well attended. A lot of young Girl Scouts getting their badges. I don't know what badge they got, but it was very nice to see them put that together, and all the baseballs that are going to the veterans and also the active troops right now. That's all I have for tonight. Moving along in the agenda, the mayor's appointment for the tax assessor.
Yes, thank you again. To the council president and council members of the Township of Washington, read the appointment of a tax assessor. Please be advised that I am hereby appointing Samba Murdy Arcetti to the position of tax assessor effective immediately and for a 4-year term commencing on July 1st, 2018, subject to having received your advice and consent, which I hereby respectfully request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any discussion on the nomination of Mr. Samba Murthy Arcetti? I know he's been an active employee in the tax assessing department. He's been working side by side with Mr. Damiano. We have a motion to approve this nomination?
May I just,
Excuse me? This resolution. Resolution, yes.
Discussion.
can I just, a
Sure.
question? Just in terms of the dates, you mentioned it's effective immediately, but commencing July 1st, just,
Yeah, because it's a 4-year, by law, the assessor has to be appointed for a 4-year term commencing July 1st of the first July subsequent to the appointment. So he has a 4-year term, starts July 1st, but since he's going to be starting right now, he starts to work right now. So his authority starts right now, but his actual 4-year term begins July 1, 2018, as per statute.
and was there an interview slate, or is he the only individual that was?
No, we interviewed, what, 4 people?
4 people,
Altogether?
all certified tax assessors.
Yes.
And we had other resumes that we did not interview.
Okay, thank you.
Will somebody move into his slot?
Yes, we will have to post, we were waiting to see how this went tonight, and as soon as, if he's appointed, then tomorrow or as soon as we can, we'll run an ad.
Any other discussion, gentlemen? Mr. Cassio, do you have anything?
No.
Was his salary reviewed?
Yes, you mean the salary, there was an offer made for some certain for him taking the position.
Okay, and that will be reflected in the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you won't be able to pinpoint the number because there's a blend of the outgoing assessor plus his, but I can certainly disclose that to you.
Okay.
It'll be on the ordinance though, right?
Yes.
May I comment that, Mr. President, I had many similar questions. I actually forwarded one of the candidates who was interviewed and was considered well. That's why I recommended him, because he was qualified. And I am told that Mr. Arcetti is very well qualified, will work the hours, and is, may I say, competitive on the salary, or better.
Yes. Besides,
Details up to you. I didn't
No.
interview him.
No, besides, he knows the town. He's worked here for 2 years.
And he knows the town.
He
He's
knows the town.
semi-incumbent,
Yes.
you might say. So I was satisfied as one who had actually proposed another candidate who was well qualified, or I wouldn't have proposed it.
Ken, you've worked with Mr. Arcetti?
I have not.
You have
Obviously, I've worked with Ray for a lot of years. I do understand that Ray did recommend him,
Yes.
so that goes a long way.
Okay.
But I will certainly make it my business to introduce myself and work with him as quickly as possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion, gentlemen?
Make the motion.
Resolution, council resolution regarding to the appointment, Resolution 18-155, appointment of tax assessor Samba Murdy Aracetti. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
May I second it?
Sure.
Councilman Brito?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll have a presentation from the Contemporary Women's Club. If you'd like to come up, Mrs. Moore. Yes, please. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about our Women's Club. We have been in existence since 1960. That means that we will be,
Gloria, excuse me, can you
excuse me,
identify yourself for the record, please?
I can't hear you.
Can you identify yourself for the record, state your name and address for the record, please?
Oh, my name and address?
Please.
Okay, sorry. Gloria Switlick, and I live at 327 Coolidge Avenue. I've been a resident for 53 years. And I'll take this opportunity to talk to you about the Women's Club. We started in 1960, so that means we're almost 58 years old. And we have been contributing to the township ever since. Some of the things that we have done in the past, when we first started out, are very impressive. We were instrumental in the creation of the library, the senior club, the Memorial Day parade, and we purchased the first community bulletin board. This is the second one that we have, and we've contributed $6,000 towards that when it was new. And we have supported the fire department, ambulance corps. We purchased a full bulletproof vest for the fire department, for the police department. And we gave a scholarship to one of our policemen who was attending school. And that scholarship was the first one that it was ever presented in the state. So we're kind of proud of that. In the recent years, we have supported the Junior Police Academy, contributed to the safety poster contest. Whenever a family in town is having any medical or financial difficulties, we have always helped them. We sponsor the Christmas in July project, collecting food and school supplies for Westwood Cares, which also takes care of the people in our town who need assistance. And we hold the Christmas decorating home contest every year. A halfway house for 8 veterans located in Garfield have received gift cards, and patients at Delridge Nursing Home in Paramus enjoy holiday decorations and cards we made for them. Working with the KFC, we give an annual pizza party with a DJ for dancing and for the members of ARC, an organization for disabled adults. 2 graduating students who are members of the town, 2 graduating students from local high schools who are members of the town receive a $1,000 scholarship each, and gift cards are given to students who have completed outstanding work in various subjects. We engaged in with the help of Girl Scout troops in town, who collected 1,447 books, which were distributed to some schools in Hackensack, which were restructuring their libraries. And recently, we donated money to the purchase of training equipment for dogs who work with traumatized veterans. We also send Christmas stockings to the men and women military stationed overseas. We supported Operation Smile, Shelter Our Sisters, Prevent Child Abuse, Autism, and UNICEF. These projects that I just mentioned are run by the New Jersey State Federation of Women's Clubs, of which we are a member. And we have 36 members, and we meet on the first Wednesday of the month at 7:30 in the senior room. And I'd like to thank Mr. Bruno because he mentioned something that's kind of dear to our heart is the plantings that we put in front of their library. He happened to mention them to me tonight, and I really didn't have them in my notes, but thank you, Mr. Bruno. I'm glad you appreciate them. And when the spring comes, we're going to have more plantings.
My wife will be happy.
And thank you very much.
We appreciate everything you do, Mrs. Switlick. And also, Mrs. Marino is here tonight, Mrs. Scanlon, Mrs. Siaco, and Mrs. Cassiano. But I see there's 5 of yous, and I only have 4 names, so I'm missing one of yous.
That's Mrs. Cassiano, too. She's
Well,
Nina's
thank you,
sister.
ladies, for everything you do for the town and the Women's Club. We appreciate it. Moving on, general public discussion. Motion to open to public discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. If anybody would like to address the council, if you may come up, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Lorianne Roberts, 704 Amherst Drive. First, I am one of the leaders from the 2 Girl Scout troops, George and Washington School, who we put together with Billy's Baseballs, the event. We were so grateful to use the senior center, to have Marianne come, and Sue, and Councilman Ullman for the refreshments and the snacks for the girls. It was greatly appreciated, and the girls just loved meeting Councilman DeSena and Cumming and the mayor, and it was something that was an hour, and it was a little something, and it turned into this big, huge thing, and you could feel the community in the room. We had people of all ages. We had boys and girls. We had non-Girl Scout people delivering Valentines. It really just took on a life of its own, and it was beautiful. We had the pleasure of Jim Joyce, the president of our Golden Seniors, leading the girls in the Pledge of Allegiance, so that was really exciting for them. They had a great time. They really got an idea of government and being in the township, and they did earn a badge of being a good friend. And what we did was we sent Valentines and toiletries and Billy's Baseballs to veterans' homes and to a couple people overseas. So it was a really nice, and Marianne, thank you, on aside, for recognizing my son. You made him feel like $1 million, and we're still totally impressed that you went to law school at night. On a side note, yes. Second was, thing I want to discuss is the corner of Amherst Drive. Back in June, I had come to speak about the leak and the drainage issue, and you were so nice to take care of it immediately. The leak, the handicap ramps were put in. They're beautiful. We even had a bonus of our road being paved, which we were extremely grateful for. However, the drainage was never fixed. So the corner is filled with puddles of water. Anytime it rains or snows, it is not accessible. We have residents on our block who leave very early in the morning. It's dark out. If they have to walk into oncoming traffic on Pascack Road to bypass this gigantic puddle, it has iced over, which was my concern in June. It's not pitched correctly to the drainage basins. So that's something that if we could look into that, it is a hazardous condition, so if we could look into that. Quickly, my third thing was the Memorial Field handicap ramp. I know, as I've told you before, I myself am handicapped. I am an advocate for handicapped people. Again, grateful for the ramp. There's no signage. I was just wondering how a visitor would know that there's a handicap ramp there. That was my one question. My second question is, it's a gravel parking lot, so if you're in a wheelchair or have a walker like I once had, you're not going to be able to access the ramp. Once you go up the ramp, it leads to nowhere. The ramp literally leads to nowhere. It leads to a clay patch, and I'm not sure where a disabled person would go from there. So I don't know if there's further plans for signage and to continue a path, to give these people who are going to use a path a place to park. I'm not sure what the game plan is next, but it was something else that I was hoping that could be looked into.
I believe there's a phase 2, correct, Marianne, of that project?
We submitted a grant to
For the
CDBG for the parking because
Yeah.
we recognized
Right.
that needed to happen. There's nothing planned currently, or there's no grant application pending for the connection between the top of the ramp and further access to the field. As I understand it, it connects to the facilities there, the bathroom.
But then
it
there's a
doesn't
set
get
of
you-
stairs. Yeah, it doesn't get you onto the field. You would just be sitting on the baseball field and by the home plate on the baseball field. There's
Correct.
nowhere to go. So if you come to watch a football game, you can't enjoy the game.
Okay. I believe that may have been a part of, the access had been part of the grander plan for
Okay.
Memorial Field that now has to be revisited, so
Okay.
the council is now aware of it.
My one concern was that there's some residents in town that don't know that the ramp exists, so visitors would have no idea that the ramp exists. And lastly, I just would like to thank the council people who are not playing into the social media game that is currently going on. I appreciate that, and I know other residents do as well. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Would anybody else like?
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. Mayor Calmari said that he attended the meeting for the Memorial Field, and at that meeting, which I was at, he stated that he was working on doing a postcard to be sent to residents asking their thoughts about prioritizing different projects that we've had going on in town, which everybody's been discussing. Is the council, I didn't see anything on the agenda. Is the council working on something of this nature?
We are not aware of any postcards or any information coming from the field committee as of
Well, no,
this
this has
time.
nothing to do with the field. The mayor said he was doing this. And I was just wondering, since I hadn't seen anything, and it's been 3 weeks.
The mayor has not approached myself about any postcard, Mrs. Osmond, so
Okay.
I do not know.
All right, so there was no idea about anything.
No.
Mayor, you did mention that at our meeting.
Correct. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, and you're not discussing it with the council?
Well, it's not in the works yet. As soon as it is, of course, I'll be working with the council to put it
Oh, no,
together.
you had said you're working on it, and that's what I thought. 3 weeks had gone by, I thought maybe, that's why I came to look at the agenda, and there was nothing on it. That was why.
Correct.
And since we have a meeting of the Memorial
If I
Fields.
said working on it, I meant to be worked on.
Oh,
but
okay, all right, so
it's
you have not-
worked. Yes, it hasn't
Okay,
been done.
because after I thought about it, I didn't think it was a very good idea to do something like that.
Not to take up any more of your time, Mrs. Osmond, this council is waiting for the recommendations from the Field Turf Committee. Once we receive those recommendations, we will review it and make a decision. We are not planning on sending out any postcards. We would like to see these findings of this committee that's been working on you're on the committee, you've been working on it for a long time. Since I've been on council, and I've asked before I was put on council, what the recommendations are, and I've still not seen any. So once we receive those recommendations,
Well, there were recommendations. There was something that was sent out from a group of...
there was 2 sets of recommendations.
Right.
I'd like one,
I'm not
one
sure that'll
consensus.
ever-
Well, then we need to move on and do something different.
Okay. But I will get that back to the people. Also, the town calendar, yes, it is a nice town calendar, except, excuse me for having to say that, it doesn't give me the names of any of our police officers, of any of our fire department, of any resident, of any, employees. ambulance corps members. All the years that I've lived in this township, that's, you know, we respect those people, and not to have their names on our calendars. I've never, ever seen a calendar without their names on it. There's a section of the calendar where it has the dates. Instead of them being on the calendar itself, it has the planning board, the council, the zoning board, the planning board, you know, and the other council meeting. And it's in very large print. Well, that could go down into the calendar itself, because the calendar has a lot of nice dates on it. I did appreciate that. But where are the names of our people? I mean, I would like to, you know, there are new police officers since I've even been here in town, and I don't know what their names are even. And, you know, it seems very strange. I think we've always honored our people like that. And I think I'd appreciate if maybe their names go back on the calendar next year. All of the different departments, even like now you put a new tax assessor in. You know, people do want to talk to the tax assessor, and it's nice to be able to have his name, so when you call, you don't go, oh, you're the tax, you know. The clerk, her name is not there, and people use the clerk constantly are calling the clerk.
That's okay.
No. I know that feeling, but still, it's important.
I wish to
It's
remain anonymous.
important.
Yeah.
No, it's important. I think it's a very important issue, and I really would think that it's something that maybe could be
We'll
looked into.
certainly look at it for next year.
Yes, please, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Also, I want to talk to 1 minute about the citizen. We had a citizen in December, and I know no one had commented, holidays and all. It was 20 pages long. And the 20 pages long was a tribute to the mayor, and it was written by the mayor. It was very obvious. If you know the mayor, you know, I know her writing. Please, I'm not sure the citizen is what it is now. It's not what it used to be. It used to be all things coming up, 4 pages long. It told us if there was a health department coming up with the rabies shots for the dogs, or flu season, or things of this nature, instead of it being what happened for the whole year. I think it's a lot spending of money that may not be necessary.
Well, maybe we could use the citizen to address your comments of introducing all the municipal departments by name in the citizen. So this
Okay.
way the 2018 new department heads are given their due, and our new employees are given their due in the citizen.
Okay,
That's
and
something
then
to
we'll
look
put it
at.
on our calendar next year.
Yes.
Okay, now, this one is basically for you, Mr. DeSena, since you're an engineer. 1.5 years ago, they paved my street. I live on Adams Place. I live between Jackson and Hoover. Then there's Hoover and, of course, Richard Boulevard North. Now, I have a crack that goes from curb to curb already. Now, also 50 feet up from that curb, from that area, is another crack. That's a third of the street. Should a street have cracks that soon in it that doesn't have any traffic? There's only 10 houses on my section.
It's hard to tell without having all the information of whether it should or not, but we should be looking at it should still be under the 2-year maintenance bond,
Right.
so we should have the contractor looking at it. 'Cause
Yeah, I've never seen, I mean, the last time it was 15 years before anything cracked or anything. Now it's 1.5 years, and I have, well, not only that, but if you look at my street when it rains, my street has had, I'd say, 6 water main breaks on it in the 10-house section. 6. Well, really, 5 houses only. And what happens is, every time it rains, you can actually see every road opening from the water department, and you can see them all. I mean, it's not very thick coating that was put on my street, obviously. It was a very small amount. And I'm going to make one more statement. The clock is still not, and I was told 3 weeks ago that it was going to be done immediately that week.
I don't believe it was supposed to be immediately that week, but
Yeah, you
the gentleman is ill.
You said it was going to be done. It was all set up and it was going to be done. That was 3 weeks ago. It's been 5 months.
The gentleman was ill. That was what I was
I'm
told.
sorry, it's been 5 monts.
Okay, I'll
You asked the
follow up with the
question for 5
DMF.
months.
All right, well,
Thank you.
thank you. Can we,
The gentleman was, I mean, I can
Okay.
ask the DMF to follow up with him.
yeah, can we follow up on that? And can we follow up on those cracks with the
The maintenance bond, I have to figure out what year it was paved and who the contractor was. I think it's D&L.
Okay.
Mike, can I comment for a second?
Sure, I just wanted to get one other thing. Can we
Yep.
send Was Mr. Steel involved with this Amherst drainage at the corner?
Yes, I'm going to,
Can we have him review that? and
contact
make sure
him,
that
yeah.
we have an answer before we
yeah.
give him
I don't
final
know
payment?
that there was supposed to be drainage corrections to that road, and it's unfortunate. I don't know that that was part of what they did. I think there was strictly paving and
Well,
there was.
that was a major problem that was presented months ago.
No, well, Steve, if I may, the problem was that there was an underground
A
leak
break, right.
by United Water. I don't know that this
And it
is the
wasn't-
same problem.
And it wasn't draining at the time.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
And it wasn't draining at the time.
Okay. Well, the
So
problem
it
was
broke,
that,
it wasn't draining, so we wanted to address, obviously,
Okay.
both problems. So if you can look into it, that's all.
no, absolutely.
Can we get a letter from Mr. Steel addressing the issue, please?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno, I'm sorry, you may.
That's okay. No, my only comment was, I think in one of our budget meetings last year, the citizen came up, and there was a discussion. I think we kind of all agreed at the time that we would try and do some kind of quarterly reporting, that rather than do this full-blown citizen, just some quarterly reports out, every quarter about, what's going on, and to your point, Mary Ann, about, what people want to look at. So we did mention it a year or so ago, so the budget meetings are coming up, and we'll have further discussions, because I think quarterly reports are more informative. And I also worked with Sue, and thank you, Sue. She went on the website and updated a lot of the activities from last year and brought them up to date for this year, too. So we're trying to get there. Thank you.
Anybody else like to address the council?
Julianne Lipnick, 184 Affinity Place. Councilman Bruno, I will repeat what you said. Ladies, thank you for the beautification of the library. No one could appreciate it more than I do, sitting on my front porch and looking at that beautiful site. I thank you, because it's been a long time, and I even reached out to the director of the library to let them know, whoever it was that beautified that, I appreciate it. Come the spring, I will donate some flowers to you to put there. I really appreciate the work that you do. That being said, I didn't come to the last meeting, but I did hear a discussion about the applications for football and lacrosse, the recreation applications. I took liberty to poll half a dozen parents whose sons play football. And I understand that, and I looked at the website. The fee for such is $190. And from what I gather, that includes their uniform. In many cases, boys come back the following year and they use those uniforms again. But they don't get a reduction. They're still paying the full price of registration of $190. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I don't think that that's fair. I think if they're bringing back their uniform, they should get a bit of a price break, because it's not impacting football at all. They come back with a uniform which is originally part of their cost. So to me, it's like they're paying exactly what new members are paying. So maybe when you look into registration fees and such, you'll give that some consideration.
Thank you, Mrs. Wood. Would anybody else like to address the council?
Be real quick. Todd Campisi, 378 Colonial Boulevard, Township. I just wanted to come here today to thank Mayor Calamari and Administrator Groh for taking care of the tax issue that I had. I really appreciate it. It was a little frustrating for me, and just wanted to say thank you guys for taking care of that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to address the council at this time? Seeing nobody, motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Under ordinances, adoption, second reading being none, introduction, first reading none. Individual resolutions, Resolution 18-149, budget transfer to landfill and dumping fees from the Department of Law and other expenses. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Can you just hang on one second, Mike?
Sure.
I'm just trying to find it. Mary Ann, I think there were just two transfers, I believe.
Yes.
What was it for? I'm trying to find it in the package.
One was the dumping fees incurred in connection with our debris program.
It's-
For the month of December, I guess we're slightly up. It's only $244 for that and change. And then the second one was for some of T&M bills through year end.
Does that take us to December, Mary Ann, or is there still?
That's my understanding, yes.
It's after the...
I have I have both bills with me. T&M's, there's time through December 27th on this most recent bill I have. It says through, services processed through December 29th.
Thank you. Mr. Pollard, do you see any additional things coming in from T&M?
Not for 2017.
What about 18? We're going to have some stuff?
Well, we'll be talking about that.
Okay.
So this amount came out of the law to, it came out of planning to law for T&M?
Well, yes, I could have picked a number of accounts. It just seemed like it was somewhat correlated since he's a planner and there was room in the planning department budget for consulting services that would seem like a logical pull.
Okay, I think on the reading of bills, there was two amounts paid to him. Was this to cover those amounts?
No, we can't obviously pay until transfer. We can't even encumber until there's a transfer.
Okay, so those amounts were covered
They
somewhere.
drained the balance is
it.
basically what happened. And one of the bills, I think, was a partial pay. We paid part of it, and then there's a residual due, and then there's another month's bill.
So we're basically, obviously, way over budget on T&M.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because not only did they go through the 25,000, I think they were almost entirely the other bit of money that was reserved for those types of fees.
Which was the other 25,000, I think, right?
Yes, I don't have my budget book, but it's in your budget book, you can see.
And does this cover all of their work through that period?
That's my understanding. I don't think they're sitting on bills.
And the other question is any of this work in supporting the second issue?
Yes. Yes. Some
Okay.
of it did involve that.
Some of it did involve that?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any estimates on 2018 at this point?
We're going to have a closed session on COA. It's one of the things that is going to be discussed in COA, so we'll be getting into some things.
What was your question, Mike? Sorry, what'd you just ask?
Did this include any of the secondary review of the application? And two, do we have an estimate for 2018?
So Ken, last year, when former Madam Mayor was here, there was some pushback as to whether we would pick up this tab, or the builder. I know it's closed session, I don't want to get into it.
No, it's
but-
not, that's an incorrect statement, because she made an incorrect statement.
Well, my statement was what she said. so-
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. I'm going back to her original statement. What was given to the applicant was there was some additional work that was required by the court master. And originally, we were having T&M, we were thinking about T&M doing it, but then we got the court master to say that the applicant Franklin Court, that they should be taking care of gathering that information and paying for that. So they were paying for that, we're not paying for that. But that had nothing to do with this other work that was funded by the work that was done by T&O.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Bruno?
No. Thanks. No.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
I think Mr.
You
Cook-
did your, I did do roll call now.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
No.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
No.
Can I ask if you want to do a pared-down version of this? You need 2/3, I believe, Ken?
Yes.
And I need to pay the bill for the BCUA for the debris program, if there's no objection to that. Is it possible to,
I'll make a motion to pare it down.
can we, what do we have to do at this point? Do we have to renumber it, Ken?
Yes,
And strike that language?
yes.
Okay.
So that'd be 18,158.
And that would be, just so you don't have to say it when you move it?
Well, we have a motion by Councilman Casio. Do we have a second?
Well, no, I'm saying, I just want, before we move it, just that it's going to have stricken the planning department, other expenses and Department of Law, other,
Oh, closed section 157, Mr. Bruno.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Sue, just because I
sorry,
wanted
go
to be clear before they voted, so they didn't have to clog up the record with it, that it's just going to include the first item, the $244.68 transfer.
Okay.
So we're doing resolution 18-158 for the BCUA transfer.
Yes.
So moved.
So,
So moved.
Second.
oh, okay, I didn't read it.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Moving on to consent agenda, all of the following items have been determined to have the unanimous consent of council and would be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution 18-145, authorized signatory to Bergen County Trust Fund, Gardner Park. Resolution 18-150, resolution canceling small balances. Resolution 18-151, authorize the mayor to execute shared service interlocal agreement with Westwood for teen night program. Resolution 18-152, authorize the refund of escrow monies for engineering and soil, Block 3102, Lot 13, 661 Marianne Place, in the amount of $477.50. Resolution 18-153, authorize the refund of overpayment of taxes, Block 4302, Lot 12, 378 Colonial Boulevard, in the amount of $4,161. Resolution 18-154, authorize the refund of taxes due to successful tax appeal for Block 1101, Lot 5, 77 Gorga Place, in the amount of $2770.80. Resolution 18-156, authorize change order number 1 with Mike Fitzpatrick and Sons, Inc. for 2017 road program. Any questions, gentlemen?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just have a question on the first one, which I received the contract, and thank you for sending. But
Okay.
my question, I guess, Mary Ann, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but there's a lot of reporting requirements as to, you know, bills and reports and schedules. Is that something that comes from you or from Ashley?
Me.
You? Okay. Good, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Do I have a motion?
I have one question. Mr. Mayor, you're going to speedily pay Westwood their money, right, for the team night?
Oh, I think we've already signed the check for Westwood's team night, right?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
That's all I want to know.
Yep.
What was the question, Steve?
If
I want to make sure Westwood gets their money since we have a joint program with
Oh,
Westwood for
okay.
team night. In the past, it hadn't been done, so I
Right.
want to make sure it gets done. It's a great program.
Do you have, and I don't need it now, but do you have participation numbers that you could share, email at some point?
I don't have them. I can ask Ann Lawson for them.
Okay, that'd be great.
We have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Before we move on to conference agenda, can we take a 5-minute recess, gentlemen? Ladies? Is that okay with everybody?
We can adjourn the conference agenda. Or adjourn 2 conference agendas.
Can we
Adjourn.
What's that?
Adjourn 2
I'll make a
conference,
motion.
please.
To join, or to join.
Adjourn.
Adjoin, that's the,
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
adjoin.
Mr. Alden. Moving on to conference agenda, under current business under administration, the project tracker, updated by Mrs. Brown. Any questions on it?
Yeah, I always have questions, I guess, right?
Sure.
No, it's actually, so we need to somehow start picking up some of the items that we're discussing now, so we don't drop them off. So I know this was a great tool, you've done a great job with it, so I don't know, maybe we keep this as a 17, and then we start looking at an 18, or we see what we can do to combine them, maybe, I'm not sure. But there's things that are gonna start popping up in 18 that we should probably establish, an updated one or a new one, so that we don't lose track of some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep it, as you know, it gets redated in the top corner for the date it's printed, and it identifies new info in boldface, or bold type. So the one side is kind of current fund, non-capital projects, and the other side is the capital projects. The capital projects will obviously depend on what you decide to do in the capital budget, but the front page is kind of anything under the sun type thing that's
Okay.
not capital.
So you just want to add to it as we go along, then?
Yeah, I would think so, and
Yeah.
the stuff that, like, for instance, I'm gonna take off police dispatcher right now, because you have the information, next time it won't be on there, tax assessor won't be on there, and things will get updated or deleted. I mean, if you want, the infrastructure one is on there, there hasn't been any update on there, there's, keeping it on there, so it's still on your minds, I guess, but if you want me to take it off and then you tell me to put it back on, we can.
Okay, so I think, we put Quest on the agenda. So how are the floors in the police department? They come out nice?
Yes, unfortunately, I didn't realize it, but it was only for the first floor. So when we're doing the town hall estimates, we're getting the basement of the police
Are you
department.
kidding me?
No, I did.
So the first floor is
One
done?
step forward, 3 steps backwards. with that.
Right. Well, we'll get the economies of scale
So we'll
because
have-
we'll
when we get
have,
the
yeah,
remaining
and
of
it's all
the-
the same flooring.
Okay, all right.
There's just particulars we have to figure out, like the locker room wouldn't get that flooring, it would get a tile.
Which is
things like
fine,
that,
but
Or
at
the
least-
bathrooms, yeah, whatever, there's gotta be, so there's a little,
And I noticed you said you received one of the flooring quotes already, or are we waiting on that, or they just came in?
no,
measured?
what happened is, it's a state contract, so you send out your dimension, your square footage. This one was a little bit different because we had some nuances and I didn't know exactly how to measure out the molding and stuff, so they're gonna come out, the company that did the other project had done a walkthrough, but the project's since grown then, and we also took out some, the janitor's closet, no sense in doing that, or the vault. It's like there's massive amounts of filing cabinets and equipment, and the floor is decent in there, so it would be more of a headache to put
Okay.
new flooring in there. So we've done some subtraction and some addition. We're still trying to get, and I got one guy finally agreed to come Thursday, so he would be the second person, so we're still waiting on the calculations.
The door quotes, I see you received the one quote from LKL.
Is that the company you referred?
Yes.
Okay, we had, and then Mr. Cumming had referred 2 companies that came out.
Who should
2 days
have
in a row. I don't remember the names of their company. One of them, we're hoping one's going to quote, and Mr. Cumming mentioned that one of them may not be quoting because there's some issues with the way the doors were hung. The front doors, I know almost every contractor's questioned those doors,
Yeah, so they want to
replacing
put all
them.
new frames in and everything, yeah.
They haven't suggested, I mean, I would love it if they'd submit a quote that it had that work, but they're not even submitting quotes. So I'll have Bill Lawler, after he talks to the clock guy, talk to the door guy to see where his estimate is.
Okay. So the doors are hopefully soon?
Soon, but the problem is, but there's ways you can get around, we've been doing our due diligence trying to get quotes. We have the one
Well,
quote.
if we-
It's over 6,000, you're supposed to have two, but if you're trying and you cannot get
Correct, as
another
long as we
quote.
document it, right?
Yes, exactly. But since we have one that we think we're expecting, we're gonna hold off until we get that one. But it looks like it's just gonna be the police doors to start because the other doors are problematic. At least what we can do is just get some new paint on them, sand them and paint them. If, in the meanwhile, just aesthetically, they just look
The other,
awful.
the other thing I don't see on Project Tracker is the Prospect Street, if we'd add that to,
We've never had that on there. That's why it's been,
I guess the holdup is that we don't have the signed agreements from all
They're in
the,
process, they're in process.
yeah, one of them we got back
Correct.
today,
They asked
the
for-
newest version.
They asked for a modification.
and you're okay with that? You're
And I did
amenable
the
to it?
changes, and I sent them out. The mayor sent them out, I believe the administrator sent them out. to
Copy
all
was
the
in your
people.
packet.
Okay.
And I guess one of the comments I got from the residents is that they could have them install, if somebody doesn't respond, we're not gonna kill the project, right?
No.
There's people that have not responded, and they're concerned that if we get all five or we get three, it doesn't matter. I told them is the way I understood it, right, Mr. Pollock? If three of them want it, we'll give three of them the project.
sure, you can
And the
give
other
three.
two just won't get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we're gonna follow up, and the most recent one, I forget the date of it, it's in your packet. Some of the comments were accepted, and then there was a revision, it just went out last week, I believe.
Correct.
And one of the residents, who is one of the active residents, came in today and tendered the document, so I think we're getting closer.
Actually,
And we have a contractor ready to go once we have
Yes,
the
there's
document.
a purchase order was issued
Now, do we have
4
a
months
drop
ago.
dead date? Because I know some of them are moving more expeditiously to get, like the one has already been handed in today,
Yeah.
or whenever it was.
Hopefully by the next time, in the next council meeting, we'll have them,
Okay.
one actually signed the original one.
yeah.
Oh, okay. There you go.
2 out of 5.
Well, there's a request, which you may not have seen, but there's a request now for further revision.
Oh, I didn't see anything further. Okay.
Did that come via email, Mike? No.
Yes.
Just very recently?
Hot off the presses, as they say.
Okay, that,
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. I
Yes.
started reading it before.
Okay.
So if I may, Peter, I had asked about the police, the PBA letter. Some of these items, I think, came to light as a result of a letter that was received by the township from the PBA. I know you have met with them. I don't know if it was to cover that letter or there were other issues that were being discussed. But will we receive a update to that? I do think that their letter sort of forced us to move forward on a number of these items. I'd like to understand their view of where we stand with their initial 12 points and if there are other points that the PBA has to raise, would like to raise. I do understand that the chief has responsibility to speak on behalf of the department, but at the same time, you know, the PBA took it upon themselves to issue that letter, and I think we should be, or I would like to understand where we are with regard to that letter.
Yes, the meeting I had with them did not address the letter.
Okay.
But we're trying to schedule a meeting with the chief and the PBA rep in the same time to review the letter. I expect that to happen sometime later this week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Who is the PB rep here now today? Sergeant Pecora?
As of right now, he is. I don't know if they're due to have elections again or not at this time, but as of right now, he is.
And Marion, one other thing, I know we talked about, so the flooring in the town hall, we're moving on, I guess, somewhere. And then we also talked about painting everything inside.
I don't know that there was ever that plan, that wasn't part of the plan when you adopted the capital. So I don't know that that was part of it. But if you're willing, do you want to do it and you fund it, I don't see a problem. I mean, there's some touch-up that needs to be done, but I don't know where what you're
I thought
thinking
we were
of.
waiting to paint
No,
because we wanted to get the floors in first.
that was in the PD.
And what?
That was in the police department.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The painting in the police department's been done for a while.
Oh, they did
Yeah,
that
they
first?
finished it before. I misunderstood you. I thought you were talking about town hall.
And just with regard to the town hall, we have yet to receive any quotes for that?
For what,
work?
flooring?
Yes.
No, what happened was the request for the quotes couldn't go out until the new mayor was installed. And we had to do the measurements. Part of it, the problem was too, no one could put their hands on the floor plans for when this was built. Yeah, it's unbelievable, Steve, it's unbelievable. So I found when we were doing the telephone project in the telephone room, something that would suffice, and then we used that, and the DMF took measurements. You have to put down your quantities when you solicit your quote in accordance with the mode of operating under the state contract. So that's been done, but we're refining that. And I sent it out to 3, and similar to what happened, last time we got 3 quotes in for the police department. This time, I have at least 2 of those 3 interested in this and coming, they have to come and do their measurements.
Okay.
And one's Thursday.
I mean, the only thing is, I don't know if it would be considered an emergent condition on the second floor, but, you know, if you walk up there, you will see that it is literally held together by duct tape.
I know you should see my office. My office, half of it doesn't have tile. No, I am aware of that.
So,
We were going to try and get some runners for those areas, weren't we, Mary Ann, to just cover up those?
Yeah, but then I thought we were moving along. If you'd like me to do that, I'll have Bill order them.
I think from a safety standpoint,
okay.
we should.
and just with regard to the computers, I know that they had been received, and I think you've updated that one was installed?
No, what he did was he was trying to make sure he had it all set up, and I don't know the jargon, but
It was
like a
his
prototype.
beta one to make sure that what he knows going into when he sets all the others up.
Yeah. So in fact, I was on the phone with him today, and I said, you know, we're all very anxious to have this happen, and you see my new date, and he said, you know, that could be doable, so.
Okay, I think it would be great.
Oh, we're all anxiously waiting.
And we asked him to accelerate Mary Ann's laptop so she'll have it at budget time.
Can we, when we're getting these bids on the flooring, can we maybe see if we can get an expedited quote to move on this quicker than later? You know, I know it takes time to put this together, but,
They're not,
yeah.
they know, I've been sending them email after email, we're waiting
Okay.
on you, you know. You know, when I first sent it out, it's like, oh, when can you meet next week? I said, anytime, I'm open. And then nothing, and then, you know.
I know there was some talk in the departments upstairs about putting in half doors for better security. I know they talked to the mayor about it. Could we possibly ask for quotes for that too, Mary Ann, when we're getting the door quotes?
The door quotes, I'll have to ask Bill to do that because it's typically different, I think, in interior. They do interior and exterior, but the police department one was time sensitive. I don't know where the money would come for that, because that's never been budgeted, and I don't know.
Because it's the police department doors, the front door, and a basement door, is that what?
Well, no, what happened was the police department
Doesn't lock properly.
talked about it, and for one of the first things when I started working here, I noticed what a horrible condition they were in, and I've always said to Jan, she's like, oh, we have to pick the color paint, and it never happened. And then that happened, I said, Bill, please ask them to get quotes for all the doors, because I've also noticed issues with weatherproofing and, you know,
Security.
yeah. So, again, he had 4 other guys come in, and it must have been the same issue. No one ever told us what the issue was. Now these current vendors are saying what the issue is. but you asked another question. It was something about, oh, the interior doors.
Correct. If we can help those departments
I
have.
can ask the DMF, it wasn't a priority of the prior mayor, so I don't know if,
Well, we have the insurance settlement money that we could use for whatever we'd like in the building, so if those doors can be done and get the tax clerk for more security and the clerk's department that more security so people aren't walking in and out of there, maybe your department, you know.
well,
you know,
it's
having
not
it
that,
after.
and also we're talking about moving people around as part of this when the flooring happens, because
Okay.
the offices aren't situated ideally, I don't
Okay,
believe.
so maybe that'll help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary Ann and I and at least one council person would like to kind of walk the building top to bottom and come up with a punch list of, suggestions and things like that.
Yeah, because if we install, I guess you could always rehang the doors, but some
No,
of the
no,
offices would be moving.
If offices
Yeah.
are moving, then it's not,
Yeah.
we have to wait.
So I guess we should put that on the tracker. Right? I know we discussed it last year, so Mike DeSena, just so you understand, there was a memo written, which I won't discuss now, from Chief of Police regarding the entire situation inside. And
Okay.
you should get that. Sue might have it. Look at that and see what it is, and then that'll help you with your discussions.
Thank you.
I also, my question is, and I talked to Janet about this for a long time, is what is our corporate, I don't want to say corporate color, but what is our town color? She actually had a color that she picked out, and there was some sort of blue with a number on it. I mean, so that we're consistent. We have, if we're gonna paint the doors like a gray or a blue and the signs of a different blue, I mean, what's our look? Does anybody know?
I've never heard of a blue with a number on it.
Yeah, she had some charts that she was whipping out one time with all these numbers on it.
Is it maybe on those sample signs in your office that are off to the corner?
I mean,
maybe?
I think you could do it, because all the doors need to be redone,
Yeah.
and at the time when we're at the process of doing the doors, that could possibly be the moment when we pick the color.
Right.
And then have everything match that. Whether it's something like that blue on the flag, or,
Yeah, she had some charts. I don't remember what it was, but at
Yeah.
any rate, so, okay. The other point that Council President made, that nobody really jumped on, but we have 200 and some odd $1,000 sitting in this fund for 10 years. That should be drained down to zero for everything that's done in this building. The taxpayers should not have to be taxed on it. We should not be doing any ordinances from any capital that affects the taxpayer until that amount is drained. And I've been saying
agree.
this for a year and a half.
Well, that's why I was saying,
I
do we
agree.
need a roof? I had asked about a roofing study and a window study for the building, because if we need new windows and a new roof, we should drain that from that $207,000 and get that done.
Yeah.
well, I had a number of projects, I tried to tap that fund, and the old former mayor was resistant. There were only
No, I
certain things
understand.
that she would allow.
But I
And we
think-
did draw down on it in the past year more than it had ever been drawn up, but there's still money in there.
Okay.
Not as much as you think, I don't think it's 200. I have
Well, we had
some.
280 at the end of the year. I know you used 30. That was the last I heard. So whatever it is, it should
What do
be
you think the
zero.
number is?
I can go upstairs and find out. I don't have it.
It could be rough.
No, I can't even guess.
Okay.
I thought it was 280 less the drainage, which was 50, so it was around 230. But let's just say it's 200, whatever it is, it should be drained to zero.
Right, we should get this building up to snuff
Yeah.
with windows and doors and painting, if it needs to be
Hallelujah.
painted, it needs to be painted. I mean, we should look at the carpeting in the council chambers. I mean, it's as old as the building. I'm sure somebody will say the carpeting needs to be replaced. And if the money's there, it should be done.
Yeah. That's what we want to do a top to bottom look and.
I hear you saying the stairs. The stairs is part of what we're doing.
Yes.
Runners.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't look at the budget. Is it in the capital plan that you submitted to us?
What's that?
Whatever we're talking about, all this
The
stuff. I mean,
improvements
is
to the
there,
building.
all this work for the building, is it
No,
somewhere in the budget?
no, it wasn't. We have still, you had, the first year I was here, 2016, you put in 109,000, I believe, for the building. And I don't know that any of that's been used.
Okay.
Some of it was, but I can't recall off the top of my head what it was.
Okay.
I'd like this building to be, if the money's there, if the 200+ thousand is there, we should spend it and get this building up to,
Couldn't agree
at
more.
least the minimum for our employees that work here every day and, deserve it. So, I mean, the floor is horrific upstairs.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
can't believe it's gotten to this point. It's
I know.
It's an embarrassment to everybody that comes in this building, and
Yeah.
Are we happy with the cleaning service?
No.
Okay, so we're not stuck anymore, right?
No, the new head of the DMF is looking into a lot of options. He's excited about making some changes, especially in that area.
Okay. You can put that on the tracker. Please.
Gladly.
Anything else on the project tracker, gentlemen? Moving on to budget, capital balance sheets cleanup.
Thank you.
Mr. Bruno?
Well, we have the budget, capital, balance sheet. So I guess my big question on the balance sheet cleanup is there's a lot of these miscellaneous reserves and trust funds sitting all over the place, cash reserves, old ordinances that I don't think have been cleaned up. They might have been. Are we working with Ashley to get this done?
Yes, we are.
We had a meeting with her the other day, and there's a plan. You don't see the part of the revenue side because trying to get this all to you, we haven't been able to do the revenue side. And frankly, there's numbers in the current fund budget that can change. And you need to do a full picture. Really, you would like to know what your tax input pact is. So in any event, we did talk to Ashley, and there's plans to take money in more revenue than in from some of the pockets in the revenue side of the budget.
So we're gonna clean it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know, I spoke to Ashley the other day, and I know there's, the money we're taking from the grant to clean up the plant receivable, that's done. We still have surplus, and we still have money from the middle school sale. Are we looking at that? Is anybody looking at that, or is that something we look at during the budget, or what's the game plan?
I think the idea was to, look at it all as a big picture, all the money that's in all these different accounts, and see how we can, best put them to use. Her only thing is she suggested, don't try and use too much in year one, draw it down over a number of years.
Yeah, the three of us were talking. I had originally suggested throughout 5 years, and she said absolutely 5 years would
Yeah.
be reasonable, because otherwise you're going to have, your tax rate could go like this, or you're going to find yourself at the end of if say you do it in 2 years, the third year, you're going to just hit the taxpayers with a huge increase, because you won't be able to plug that
Yeah, I'm
source.
not suggesting we wipe it out entirely. We bring down $1.2 to $1.4 million every year at a surplus.
Right.
Right now, the surplus is $5.2 million without the school. So the question is, of the 5.2, how much do we bring down? How much do we put in capital? What about the million from the school? I'm not, by all means, I'm not suggesting give everybody a free ride the first year and have $6.2 million of income. But there needs to be a long-term plan here in terms of what we're doing. So I agree, we won't do it in 1 year.
Right.
We should see. Plus, I'm sure next year the surplus will build up anyway, unless we really tighten up. No? Good.
She's actually concerned and cautioned everybody, well, it will actually, because it's always a 2-year lag. But there was only, as you know, at the time she made the caution to us, she said, just you have to keep in mind, when you take out, whatever you take out of surplus, you're not regenerating at the rate you used to regenerate. At the time, she said it was 700,000. As I mentioned to you, when you see your actuals for 2017, it's actually lower than 500,000. So whereas in years when Mayor Sopwith was the mayor and 1.5 million was going into surplus, due to the pared down budgets, at best, we have 400 and something going back into surplus. So that you have to keep that in mind. You have to keep in mind, if you want your good Moody's rating, what is the right level, because that's a factor. And this year is going to, she mentioned this will be the year she recommends we go out to bond, because you have 1 year long-term note bonds is being paid down entirely this year, and the next year it will be it's about half of the debt payment, and then that's going to fall off again after that. And with rates possibly rising, it's probably perfect storm when you need to go out. So you need to keep in mind The good thing is you just were issued a great bond rating, so that will be the bond rating in place when you go out to issue the debt, if you decide to do that.
Do you know if a review of the ordinances, the capital ordinances, has been complete? Because we drew down
No, it has not.
130 for the grant receivable.
Correct. And by the way, you're going to see that come in, there's going to be a revenue come in, because I don't know if she understood, it's just, she said, she used you didn't like the terminology she used it, but it was basically, it's like a gymnastic routine. You have to take it from one to satisfy the other, but the money's there. It's going to come into the revenue side. But she's not had a chance, I don't believe, and everything she's been doing. She has been here less than a year to try to get that done. She, like I, inherited projects that, some of the past due balances I'm dealing with are like 7 years old, 8 years old. It's just, I was dealing with settling out grants, filing reports for grants from 2014, 2015. I wasn't here. I mean, takes a lot of time to get through this. And she's, in accordance with what happened most recently with the way the grants were handled, she's developing new procedures on how that should be handled so that we avoid any of the problems going forward. So it's definitely something she intends to do.
Pay from that, we are going to prompt pay going forward, correct, Mr. Mayor? So
Yeah.
we're going to handle bills as they arise, not put them off like we have in the past.
Well, a lot of the ongoing ones were being handled. These were utilities, and I think what happened is, a month or two got misplaced somewhere. I don't know where it got, I started asking questions. Was somebody sick at some point in the purchasing side? And that wasn't the answer. I don't know what it was. But in any event, we have restored and we've updated some of the purchasing procedures now where we're allowing e-signing of vouchers so that people, the turnarounds quicker. I am going to most likely propose, there was something I learned about at the league this past year where you can actually do a resolution where you waive the need for a vendor's signature if the purchase is under a certain threshold. So these are all things, once this budget kind of gets out, and I'm still trying to clear out. I had a very frustrating day. Well, it was very productive in some respects. It's like there's still piles of paper to get through. So we're all chipping away.
Thank you.
Moving along, CFO update status, Mr. Mayor, anything new on that?
Let me say, I'm a little confused what update status you're looking for.
Did we put out an ad? Did we interview any candidates for either the CFO or the finance director?
Well, CFO, we have one.
Yeah, that's why I was confused.
Bob, is that for a
Well,
full-time?
yeah, we have one who works several hours a week.
Yeah,
We wanted
he's
to
like a
hire-
full-time?
I thought we were hiring a full-time CFO. Isn't that what you said, Peter?
And we've put that in the budget, but I don't want to be premature and look for someone until, the budget has been at least been reviewed, and I have a verbal, if not a full, okay to, go ahead and hire someone at the amount that's in the budget.
But
I'm on board that it should be full-time, but again, we have to put
Right,
it.
so do we have a salary ordinance then? That would help us move a lot of this forward.
We don't have, we do not have one yet for 2018. I can prepare one.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement to hire a CFO, full-time.
I think the consensus is to have a full-time CFO as soon as possible. So if we can get that salary in front of us to review, that'd be, that's the update we're looking for. I apologize for
I
not
throw
being-
this question out to whoever. Do we need a whole new salary ordinance, or do we just amend the CFO amount in the existing one? Just don't know the answer to that.
I think it's easy enough to do a new one.
You
I mean,
should
they're the same, the full one.
Yeah, you should do a new one. Should do a new one.
Should do a new one? Okay, all right. We'll get one prepared.
I guess we've discussed the Prospect Street agreement, that there's still work in progress, and we just received some new
Yeah.
Right,
comments that need to be reviewed.
Right, so Michael, is somebody going to get those to me to take a look at? Comments, the fresh off the press comments?
He wants to have a meeting.
Oh.
It doesn't say specifically. Section 3.
Section 3.
Is Ken copied on it?
I don't,
I'll forward it to you.
And Mike, we kind of skipped over the finance director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I am meeting with a person later this week to see if they have an interest.
Okay. So, Mr. Paulo will get a copy of those comments for the Prospect Street, so we can continue.
It's not really a comment other than asking for a meeting, but I'll forward it.
Okay.
Did we receive the new agreement that you revised, Ken? I know we received one, I don't know which one.
Yeah, it's just, it's in your packet.
Oh, it's in the packet?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
there's an individual attachment.
Dated January 31st, is it?
That sounds correct, without me
I may
digging
have
it
printed
out.
this out, I'm sorry.
There's a separate one.
That's your cover letter on there, Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The 31st.
yeah.
Same date, right?
So, yes, that would be
What I
it.
had printed out, yeah. Section 3, you said?
Yes.
Should be a separate, should be a separate piece.
Okay.
Mr. Allman, were you able to find it?
Oh, yeah, I gave it to Mr. Bruno. The section?
Yeah. No, the agreement that you were looking for.
Oh, no, I have it, yes.
What's your comment on section 3? Oh. P.
Okay.
So I guess once that meeting is set up, we'll
I'm sorry.
try to put this to rest so we can move
Oh,
on.
yeah, sure you will.
Yes.
I can understand that.
Moving along to conference agenda for council.
Mike, we have number 6 on administration.
Oh, sorry. The mayor's meeting with the county update. Mr. Mayor, you met with the county, as you had mentioned before in your report.
Yeah, like I said, was a good meeting, but because of the long time delay, we virtually have to start from scratch.
Does it look like we'll get funding in 2018, or we missed the boat already for that?
Well, there are some grants out there. We're going to try, but, grants, very hit and miss, so we'll see. But, we're not holding up any of the planning or anything, waiting for grants. Things are moving forward as fast as the engineer can move them forward. He attended the meeting, and, I think literally within a week after the meeting, he was already out doing the work they asked for.
And just, Mr. DeSanto, I don't know if you're aware, but again, there was a grant application for.
The Tiger grant.
No, it was not the Tiger grant.
Oh.
It was a DOT grant, or state grant. I don't know if it was the transportation fund, but it was almost 700,000. It was 600-something thousand dollars for the intersection.
Yeah.
We
Do we
haven't
know what the
heard.
status of that is, or?
No, it was just submitted at the end of the year. There was
Is that
I think it was in
discretionary- is that a
November,
discretionary grant?
believe so.
I think
Okay.
so.
I think I forwarded that to you. If not, I can forward it to you.
That's fine.
Pete, I have a question. I
Of
mean, you
course.
mentioned that you met with, I think, Mr. Cumming, yourself, and Mr. Sears was there.
Correct.
What capacity is he representing the town in?
Actually, the county asked for him to attend because he has history with the intersection. He attended a meeting down in Trenton a couple of years ago where it was spoken about and the funding, so they requested he come to the meeting just because he had that background.
So we have a council president who's probably got more experience than all of us combined in intersections. Why isn't he involved in this project? Mr. DeSena is not involved? Why is that?
No particular reason.
So we're going to have him involved? I mean, he's got the talent to do it.
Let me say, the only thought that went through my head, call it valid or invalid, I don't know what it's like to have two engineers in the room. I can certainly ask Paul if he's okay with having another engineer there, and, we'll let you know of any meetings that are scheduled, and
Well, I don't think it's up to Paul to decide.
I agree.
I mean, and if he,
I would like to attend the meetings going forward. I'm sorry.
so with all due respect, I don't think it's Paul's decision to decide if he wants another engineer there. Not only is he an engineer, he's the president of the council, he's a council member, and I think one of the reasons, or one of the reasons that the gentleman was elected, Mr. DeSena, is that he has experience, and he spoke to that experience in the election. He has experience with engineering, with intersections, with dealing with public works projects. So I can't think of a better person to represent not only the council, but to represent the residents than Mr. DeSena. So, hopefully Mr. Azzalina doesn't have an issue, but if he does, that's his problem.
I'm doing it more as a courtesy. What he has to say will not be the be-all and end-all. I just want to ask him more as a courtesy than anything.
Certainly.
Can we get a copy of Mr. Azzalino's proposal for what he's done to date?
What he's done to date?
Well, did he submit a proposal to go out and start the project? I guess you said he was already surveying, so.
Yes, but we haven't done anything in writing right now. It's just part of his general engineering, that he does for the town.
Okay.
Because again, we didn't want to lose time with having a separate.
What did the county request, just a topographical survey?
Topographical and a couple other very minor things. I didn't bring the notes with me, but it was minor compared to the topographical.
Okay. Can the council get a copy of what was requested?
Sure.
Thank you.
Did we put temporary budget money in for him so far, Mary Ann?
For engineering?
Yeah.
I'm sure there was, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't
how much
remember the
just do the
exact amount, but
25%?
I know we did anticipating that this was going to come.
Was it the 25% of last year's total? That
I
one?
didn't do, a lot of them were based on 25%. I don't remember. I'd have to look.
Okay, maybe you can let us know. So I guess we come back to, Peter, in terms of Mike DeSena. I mean, I think we'd agree you should be involved immediately, so.
Okay, not a problem.
But I don't know if it's a concern or not. I mean, nothing against Tom, but he's a resident, and he might be negotiating, and he might be on the phone with them. They might call him, and how does that work?
No, it was understood that he was just coming to this meeting to kind of bridge a gap from the old to getting it restarted for the new. I don't know that he'll be at any future meetings.
Yeah, I think if, you obviously just can't have, again, nothing against Tom,
No,
but you
right.
can't have a resident representing the
Yeah,
town or the council.
obviously, if the county asked for him to be there, I didn't want to tell the county that I wouldn't have him come, but I believe it was just a one-time thing to bridge a knowledge thing.
Okay.
So have we talked to Mr. Tedesco about adding this to the 2018 capital budget for the county?
His chief of staff, who was in on the meeting, was going to relay that request to him.
Okay. Can we send him a letter?
Can we or did we?
Both. Can we and-
Did we? And if we didn't, can we?
We didn't, can we?
I believe no and yes.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to, put it in front of them that we need this money refunded into this, we need this money put back into the Bergen County capital, projects
Yeah,
for 2018 if possible. I know it's late. I know it's late, but, squeaky wheel sometimes gets a little oil, and maybe we can make things happen since it's a priority for the county also. It is the fourth worst intersection in the state of New Jersey.
All on board with it, yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah, it's got whatever, the politician off, his name is right, big sign right there, off highway,
And speaking of Mr. Auth, he did reach out to me to see if there's anything he could do. I said, because he was in on that meeting down in Trenton also, so I told him about the meeting, and he's also going to see what funding is available.
Would it be, aside from checking on the funding, would it be possible to request that he write a letter on our behalf, since it is, not only impacting Washington Township, but residents from various...
the whole Pascagoula Valley.
Be happy to ask him.
I've heard, oh no, that's the county. Something came up during a DOT grant submission where I think that they say they don't look, they can't take letters from representatives, but this is different, this is the county.
Doesn't hurt to ask, I guess.
Anything else?
No, move on.
Just, I'm sorry,
Yes,
one
Mr.
last
Sullivan,
thing.
go ahead.
Since it's related to the intersection, the resolution that was presented at the last meeting and was tabled, there was going to be edits, which I believe Mr. Poller had circulated. Is there a need to do further edits to that?
Well, that ordinance is going nowhere because based on what what was said by the auditor, there's only $14,000 in the capital improvement fund. There is no capital ordinance. You have to have a fund that you're funding your $400,000. So that ordinance is not happening. What's going to happen, I gathered from what I saw, was it's going to become a budget item, part of the capital budget, right?
Yep.
So,
We have to provide for it.
yeah, you have to provide for, and then if you need an ordinance to draw money out, particularly, then you could do your ordinance at that point in time. If you do, I'm not even sure. There may be, the way the budget is set up, it may be enough that the money is there and could be expended without a capital ordinance. But if a capital ordinance, and the auditor can tell us whether he needs one or not, but if we need one, I mean, we could certainly use what I have.
Yes.
It's edited to ready to go. It's in ready to go form. What was taken out was the stuff that I had objected to originally, so I'm happy with it.
Okay,
Because it's correct now.
okay.
So, I mean, we actually could have done some sort of emergency, one of these emergency ordinance resolutions, I don't even know at this point, to push it forward, but I think if we have the budget, we should immediately push that forward to get it done. I think what the auditor was saying, you can do an emergency budget ordinance or whatever it is we refer to it as.
A temporary appropriation, he said you could
Yeah,
do
okay,
it, but you
temporary.
have to go through that and then the ordinance, but the recommendation was to do it through the budget.
Okay,
You know, but you have the ordinance, let me put it this way, the ordinance is there if and when you need it, it's there.
Well, that's where my concern came from with Mr. Azalito's, proposal, because if we only have $17,000 in the budget for, additional work, that survey is gonna cost, I think, a little bit more than $17,000, so how do we pay for that? That's what I was concerned with. That's why I wanted to see his proposal, see what the actual cost was of that survey.
I believe you could probably use some of the money from old road programs, because it's.
Okay, I'm just,
yeah,
Ashley mentioned we only had 17,000,
Yeah.
which alarmed me. And then we're saying we have an engineer already starting the work, and I didn't, we didn't see a proposal or anything. So I know $17,000 is not gonna cut the mustard, goes quick. So that's why I was concerned. That's why I asked the question about the proposal.
Which is why we have to clean up these old ordinances, because there's several hundred thousand sitting in some bank account that's not working for us. And there's several of them that say various town improvements, so I'm sure we can tap into probably 3 or 4 of them to give us money for this whole project without taxing anybody. So I know it's busy. I mean, I'll talk to, I'll call Ashley next week and show her the schedule that I'm referring to.
well, just so you know, you can't tap into anything, just say municipal improvements. It's got to be a road program.
No, I
ordinance.
understand, but,
Okay, I just want to make sure.
But, and I know it's earmarked for something, and we have to read it, but, we've been asking to go, and I think you have a book, actually. You did a painstakingly project to get all these ordinances in a book, didn't you?
Yeah, and I was told last year by Madam Mayor, she went up after I agreed to do it at one of the budget meetings, and she went to Ashley and she said, do not work with Mary Ann. Do not
But
do
you
it with
have
her,
the
do it with
ordinances.
me, and then they never did it.
I understand, but you have the ordinances. so,
Yes.
I mean, 80% of the project is completed, right? Technically, because you have.
The hardest, but you have to get updates, sure. Yeah,
have
it's
to
not
read
too
them.
hard. And I had actually made notes on my versions of what should be canceled and what should stay.
Okay.
And that restriction has been removed. And just one other thing, since we're talking about the ordinance, somehow the county knew about the ordinance when we went down there for the meeting, and they said, based on us having to backtrack some because of the time lag, that in their opinion, they thought the ordinance was a little premature because, the costs may change from a few years ago. So that was just their opinion, to say, we're really not at that point just yet. So I just throw that out for what it was worth.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I guess the fact is that the Township of Washington residents, deserve this intersection in 2018, and we are trying to expedite that to get this accomplished closer to 2018 without getting into 2019, 2020, as we've been promised for years now. So that's all we're doing, Mr. Mackler.
We're doing whatever we can, but you probably know Mike better than
I know.
most of us up here.
That's why one of my things was to have
make sure they're not waiting on us.
Yeah, that we finance it and have the
it's gonna
finance
take
in
a
place and the work is done, so
Correct.
we're not waiting on us. That's all.
Yeah.
Anything else, gentlemen, on that subject?
No, thanks.
Moving on, Mr. Bruno, you had questions regarding certain chapters in our
Yeah,
code?
no, well, just this code chapter 5-7, it's an insurance section, and it's very specific as to how the insurance for the town should be handled with the committee, reviewing premiums, reviewing what's being done, and we don't do any of it, so I'm trying to understand why not.
Because that section really has been replaced by the fact that we belong to the JIF and we don't go out for private insurances anymore. That was done early on when this government was put in place, and there was an insurance committee, and we did have outside insurance companies that used to underwrite our liability and all of our insurance needs. But ever since the JIF took over, that is no longer the case, and that's one of the things, if you look at the analysis that I did on the codification, that's being deleted. That whole section's being deleted, because
Okay.
it's irrelevant.
Okay.
Did I comment on that? Because I read the thing, I don't know if I commented on it, I might have.
I don't remember, but it was definitely...
So nothing, from the Faulkner government, though, nothing prevents the council for having a subcommittee to review this stuff with the JIF, or the JIF representative, because I know we can form committees, that's for sure.
You can form committees, sure.
Yeah, okay.
What allows us to basically show indifference to code versus acting on it? So last week, or last meeting, there was a gentleman who has a business in town, and we needed, in order to support his business and provide him with certification that it was allowed, we passed an ordinance to do that. Why yet we haven't passed an ordinance, or we haven't changed the code to eliminate the insurance committee? So where is the determination made as to what's a valid ordinance, or what's valid code, what's invalid, and how we approach it? Who makes the determination that we could show indifference to code on our books?
Okay, well, all right, let's kind of just talk generally about, this is general, and I'm
Yes.
going to just talk generally, because it's not going to apply to every single situation, but let's just go with that limousine thing. Okay, so I basically didn't necessarily agree with the way you wanted to handle waiving the code for the limo people, but you decided to do it, and so my job is to, give you the vehicle to try and do it. The right way to do it was to change the ordinance, because the ordinance then would have allowed that use in that zone, and it would not have been a violation. So, but trying to help out the people and be accommodating and so forth. So, you do not have a right to say, we're waiving things. You can't go around waiving things. But on that situation, you did it. Now, you've done it on other things, too. I mean, there could be parking ordinances, and you might say, okay, well, we're not going to have parking because we're going to do an event in town. And these are not like, critical ordinances, that kind of stuff. As far as things being in the code that aren't current, the code is an alive thing. It's just like the statutes in New Jersey or the federal stat. They're always changing, and things that are okay one day maybe are not the same. Your littering ordinance and your noise ordinance may not be good when constitutional cases are decided, and so the ordinance stays there for a while, but it's not going to be enforced. So it's a process. Now, codifications don't happen that often. They're a project, they're expensive and stuff like that. So basically, you try to update everything and get things out. And this is one of those things that was pretty obvious to me, and I said, okay, we should take that out and make it, reflective of where we are. But I will tell you that, as soon as you finish the code, there will be things that maybe are in the gray area or maybe, have changed because, the state can enact laws that supersede or supplement or whatever. So there are things that change all the time with the code. So it's kind of a living, breathing thing. There are no 100% lines of demarcation. They're judgment calls, and like I said before, that one, we just did it the way we did it. The proper way was to change the ordinance.
Sure.
Or for him to go to one of the boards and get a variance. I mean, really, when you think of it, that's really what it was all about, was the fact that he could have gotten relief if he went to the board. I'm sure they would have given it to him, bingo, he would have had it. And it was not in violation of the use. But obviously it puts him through all that rigmarole of going to the board, the cost of going to the board and stuff like that. So, we did what we did.
I think, Mr. Alman, I think, Mr. Powell, we'd ask you to look at that ordinance and see what changes you suggest.
No, I said that we should put that on for a discussion.
Correct.
Because I said that the limo is good and we can take care of that, but I thought it should be a wider
So it's
approach,
something
and
we
we should
need to discuss.
we should have a discussion up here of maybe describing types of businesses that also could be done without a problem going into, a board. For example, with people having computers and phones, and there's not the slightest hint of any work going on, you could permit activities to go on. So I said, don't just do the limousine, have a discussion of maybe what you want to put in there.
I mean, is the concept of a brass plate applicable here? I know when I worked at the bank, we had branches in the Bahamas, but essentially, it's a brass plate on a building, and, there's no activity there.
You don't even need a brass plate. I mean, what I'm saying is that each zone has uses that are permitted. And home occupations are generally professional, licensed, state licensed. I mean, it's a limited things, and it specifically says if it's not listed, it's not permitted, okay? But, again, there's a perfect example. That ordinance was done a long time ago. There's internet now, there's computers, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do, and it has no impact on on neighbors and on anything, so that you could allow people to do that kind of stuff without running afoul of a zoning ordinance. But you could see where somebody might say, oh, Joe's conducting a business out of his house, he's, ordering goods and, this, that, the other thing, and, that kind of stuff, and could be a problem.
It was basically putting for clientele and deliveries to homes, basically what that ordinance is. Obviously, a lot of businesses now, like Ken said, are internet-based, and you don't even know they're working.
Right.
You got a desk in your bedroom, you're ordering who knows what, Most business professionals, attorneys, doctors, dentists, they're seeing patients, so they have a parking issue and other things like that. That was the intent of it. So, it has changed a lot. Work has changed in the United States in the last 30 years. So we can definitely change an ordinance and update it. And I think
That's why I think it's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda. It's on the bottom,
To
yeah.
discuss, it's on the bottom there, to talk about, I had mentioned last time for people to think about descriptions of businesses that they would, think would be no problem, and maybe include that in a revision.
So when we talk about ordinances and code, and this situation specifically, hadn't we issued a letter 3 years in a row to them, if I understood, that said everything was okay?
Yeah, but here's the thing. just because you issue a letter doesn't lock you into, you have to issue another letter. I mean, just because, you know, there's case law about, administrative agents of the, government misinterpreting ordinances, giving permits, whatever. Just because you issued things doesn't mean that you're now duty-bound to issue it in violation of an existing law, rule, regulation, something like that. So it was very nice that they, made the argument, and certainly, since it wasn't so intrusive, it sounded all great, we, give them a letter, why are we, quote, giving them a hard time, making them go before a board and stuff like that. So, it was part of the presentation, but it certainly wasn't part of the legal rationale of what you had to do or didn't do.
I know legally we can do what we want, but yet at the same time, to Mike's original question, we have a code, we have an ordinance, we have all these things in place, and we give them a letter anyway for 3 years in a row. So isn't that shame on us?
Bob, you could sit here all day long and talk about shame on us.
Yeah, I can. I know. I'm trying to understand this,
But this
Ken.
government's been going on for a long
I'm
time.
not talking
before-
about the government. I'm talking specifically
Yeah.
about a parking situation
Okay.
that has an ordinance and has a code. We issue a letter, and I get it. Maybe it was wrong for us to do. I'm not saying it was right, but
Well,
you're making a point that doesn't mean it exists. I get it, but yet we were out of ordinance and code for 3 years,
Well,
technically.
how do you know?
That's my opinion.
How do you know?
Just my opinion.
How do you know some other council people didn't do the same thing that you guys did the
Just
other
my
day?
opinion.
I'm just saying.
I'm not
Well,
talking
Bob,
about other
Bob,
councilmen.
Bob,
I'm talking about
Bob,
us tonight. Thank you.
Bob.
That's it. That's
No,
all. Ken,
no,
Ken,
no,
I don't wanna get into an argument.
don't say what you have to say and then cut me
I
off.
don't want to get into an argument.
Yeah, well, I'm not
with
getting into an argument.
Yeah,
Just
you
listen.
are. I think you're wrong. So you're right, I'm wrong. That's it. We move on.
Let me ask you. Let me
Move
ask
on.
you a
Move on.
question. Let me ask you a
I'm not
question.
interested, to be honest.
move
with
on.
you.
That's what
Let's
happens,
move
Bob.
on.
You're never interested when somebody has
I'm
an
always
opposite
interested
opinion.
in what you say, Ken, but this thing, I think it's waffling and it's wrong. So that's all. That's my
We can
opinion.
change the ordinance and we can come into compliance with, there's anything in the code book that the council wants to change has an obligation, if they think it's right, to change it. And we can do it the proper way. We can eliminate items, we can add items that are no longer in use. You talk about the insurance item, maybe part of that list is ineffective anymore because we have Mel and Jiff, but maybe we could use a commission to look at other insurances that the town has. Health insurance, dental insurance, and that like, if you want to go that way. So, yeah, basically the ordinances are our guide. And if there's something that we feel is incorrect for the township, we can change it by ordinance. It's not hard to do. We talk about it, we discuss it, we ask the attorney, how can we do this in his language, okay? And once we get the input, we can give it to Ken, and he can give it back to us. If we like the language and its intent, we can go ahead and pass it. If we don't like the intent, or we don't like the language, we can either rewrite it or come back to it. It's not hard. It's really not a hard thing. There's stuff you don't see, change it. I mean, you're looking at a particular ordinance. We've been with Mel and Jeff since 1984 or 85. That's 30 years. Why wasn't it changed in the past? Why wasn't it just struck by the other councils? Way before any of us got on here. We can ask that question. Were we out of compliance? No doubt about it, but no one really cared. It was just something we kind of put to the side. So if you want to change it, let's change it. Make it better, make it worse, get rid of it, add something totally different, strike it from the record. It's all in the council's hands, whatever you feel is necessary for the town to function. It's not hard.
Or enforce it.
Or enforce it. Yeah, enforce it. But that comes from us, the council, putting pressure on any administration to enforce it. It wasn't enforced in the past, that's all. We don't have to use JIF. We just use JIF because right now they have the best price, other than self-insuring. I don't think the town wants to self-insure, and I think if we go out to the general market, we'll be spending a lot more money for liability insurance, but we have that option, right, Ken? If we wanted to.
If you want to, you can.
I don't want to, because it's gonna cost, it's gonna kill us.
You'll get killed, but.
But the option is there. So, if we want to change stuff, we can change anything in that book that the council so desires. It's up to the council.
Okay, moving on. Pedestrian crossing, Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, so, Peter, this is obviously, we know what this one is for the signs. And also, I just want to talk about number 2 and 6, because back when Mr. Sears was here, he mentioned that somebody was going to be putting some crosswalks or some white lines along Spice and Washington, where I am, because it's a danger zone there. Is anything happening with the crosswalk lines, or is anything happening with pedestrian crossings?
Okay, let me address number 2 first, because that was a little generic. I wasn't sure where you were headed with that. So if it has to do with signs, yes, we are ordering signs for a lot of the crosswalks and like that. That's in the works. As far as...
What kind of signs? This is going to be the yellow signs or signs in the street?
It's a mix of a lot of signs, some flashing, some of the ones in the street that our old friend Ray used to look for a lot.
Correct.
So some of those are being ordered. But yeah, we're putting a big emphasis on signs.
Are the speed limit signs for Colonial also being ordered, or we had them already?
We have those already, they're just waiting for the weather to sink the poles. As far as the crosswalk at Spice Drive, that, somehow we got into that at the intersection meeting also. Not sure how it came up. The county is a little hesitant until they can send someone out, because their concern is vehicles coming down the hill approaching that crosswalk. They were concerned about, sight and being able to see someone in the crosswalk already and being able to stop in time. So they said they would include it when they have people looking at the intersection, but that was a concern of theirs, that they didn't want to put a crosswalk where people coming down that hill, couldn't necessarily react in time to a pedestrian crossing at that point.
I mean, it's a death trap, to be honest with you. They don't react whether they see you, they don't see you. You come off the buses, it's just really, it's horrible.
I agree, but I also understand where they're coming from. If they put a crosswalk there, does that mean they've assumed some liability if something happens? So, I was willing to go with their answer that at least it's on their radar, and they will take another look at it. But that was their quick response, is they all remembered the hill, the people that were on the meeting, and had that concern.
Just, when you were at the meeting with the county, is it Duratec, Durablend, Dura something? They were going to put it on Washington over by Mice, is it Meiskin?
Yeah, by that little bend.
The red patch.
Yeah.
Are they doing that, or is that like not?
Let me say that did not come up.
Okay.
So I will make a note to raise it at the next one.
They were scheduled to do that, we had weather concerns
Right.
at that point, and never got back on the map, so I don't know why they would just take it off, just because there was bad weather 1 or 2 months.
Something like
Well, they're supposed to repave Washington this year, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So
that might
maybe
have been
get put on the
factored
radar
into
with
it also.
the packaging of repaving. Mr. Ullman, they're supposed to repave Washington this year.
Okay.
So maybe it'll get packaged with that, but that's something we have to ask.
I'll make sure to remind them about it as part of the paving.
Is that the entire length of Washington, are you aware of, or?
I believe
so.
it's from border to border.
Border to border.
And it's subject to us doing the curbs, which is part of the budget this year.
That's great. Too bad I don't live on Washington.
I know that was a topic of discussion, and I know the county put it out that it's from the Westwood border to the,
I sent that to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that letter. Just, you also might want to chalk first, before you reach out to the county, to Captain Hackbarth, because he was very involved with the Durablend conversations.
Will do, thanks.
But just also cautioned him that he did not have to do all this if, in fact, when they're paving, it wouldn't make sense to do it until after, obviously.
anything else on those two subjects, Mr. Bruno?
No.
Moving on, Beautification Committee.
Was yours the status, Tom, Mr. Sears was going to be, I believe Peter mentioned that
Yes,
Tom was the guy who was looking into heading it up, so.
yes, Mary Ann pointed out to me either today or late last week that Beautification Committee and Green Team cannot be used as one entity. So we'll have to have two separate entities, because generally a green team is more for recycling, if I remember
Well, no, it's for
correct.
Sustainable New Jersey.
Sustainable,
If anybody's
sorry.
familiar with that terminology, it's to attain certification for that, and it's more towards in the nature of recycling and sustainable practices.
So there will be two different committees. You know, I haven't spoken to Tom yet, because this just came up, you know, in the past couple of working days. You know, I believe since he thought there was going to be one, he would like to be involved with both. Like I said, he still has volunteers who were on board with doing it, but it does need to be two separate committees.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, as long as we start.
Moving
And
on.
just one
Oh.
thing, and when I mentioned, I think, Peter, sorry,
Yeah.
when we're talking about what to do in front of the building, it seems like that would be a prime
Yes.
project for that committee.
Yeah, where they just dug it up for the drainage.
Item number 4, petition language form of government referendum. I would like to get permission from the council to reach out to the League of Municipalities and obtain 2 attorneys that specialize in preparing the language for the petition, and have them give us a proposal to look into preparing that for us. Is everybody amenable to that?
Fine by me.
Okay, so let me just mention something, okay? Under our form of government, you're not allowed to go out to get counsel, separate counsel.
Well, the council is allowed to have its own counsel, correct, Mr.
No,
Powell?
they're not allowed to have their own counsel. No, there's case law on it, specific case law, where counsel tried to go out and hire outside counsel, and they are not allowed to go out and get outside counsel. If there's additional counsel needed, for example, like bonding counsel or something like that, a special counsel, generally, it's my call to make that, and I make that recommendation to do that, and as long as it's budgeted for, we can do that, and we do that with our bonding attorney. But you're not allowed to go out and hire, the council's not allowed to have separate counsel of their own. It's a violation of the Faulkner Act, and you're not allowed to do it.
What about a consultant?
No, same thing. You're not allowed to enter into any contracts with any consultants. The mayor is the only one that can do that. You can approve contracts, you can do, reject appointments or by not giving your consent, but you can't go out and hire consultants.
Well, we can't reject appointments. I mean, we do,
Well, you do,
but it has no impact, so.
Well, on certain things, but other things not.
Where is the case
For
law
example-
on that, Ken? I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I'll give you the case law.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to take these down? You can have it, I'll give it to you right now.
No, you can email them, that would be better.
Sharp
That's why I
versus
could read it.
Newark.
You can email them.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
fine. Okay.
So last year, we actually put money, the council put money in the budget for outside counsel. I guess we shouldn't have? That was just money that goes to surplus then?
I wasn't involved with the budget of what was in the budget last year. I don't really get involved with what you put into the budget. So,
Bob, I don't think that was last year. I think that was your submission this year.
No, it was last year we put it in too. This year, yes, but last year we put money in, we put $5,000 or $6,000.
For a grant.
No, we put $5,000 or $6,000
Oh, okay.
in the council budget for fees or some sort.
Okay.
Because actually, when we did it, Peter actually mentioned as long as the council votes on what we're using it for, which we agreed to. So, I mean, we didn't know at the time, obviously, now we find out, so.
Oh, so I was using that, Mr. Bruno,
Yeah.
as
Yeah, that's fine.
as the correlation for what I asked for. So I guess we will continue to review the memo that Mr. Poller has
yeah,
prepared.
let me follow up on that a little bit too, because there's a couple other issues I want to talk about those things, okay? So, 2 things. One, the memo that I had done was a 23-page memo. And it specifically said, the following is a discussion of choices and procedures with respect to changing the form of government. It is meant to be an overview and is not exhaustive of all the questions which may come up with any particular form of government, procedure, or related issue. And my purpose in doing this was I was just given a request to do something on the change of form of government. I wasn't told to give you the Encyclopedia Britannica on everything. So I did something that I thought you might be interested in terms of the forms of government, what the powers were, what the important highlights would be, the general procedures of going through, what do you call it, how to change the form of government, things of that nature, with the expectation that there would be other questions as you got into it further, okay? But there has been discussion about, it's not updated, it's incomplete, it's not quite right. So, and I've seen this now a couple of times, so in order to kind of get around that, just kind of put that aside, because that wasn't the purpose of the memo. There is a booklet put out by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs on the optional municipal charter law. I have it here from, it's current as of 2017, January 2017. Instead of my 20 pages of pretty good size font that you could read, it's 50 pages of get your glasses out, read your stuff. So I'm going to hand out to you the first page of it, and on the bottom is the website. So you're free to go to the website, and now you can have all the provisions, and you can look up whatever you'd like to look up. So you can pass that around.
We've also,
I got it already.
Yeah.
we've also, Sue has also ordered us a brochure from the League of Municipalities, which we'll disseminate to council as soon as we receive it, regarding all the different forms of Faulkner and what's available to us also. We've just ordered that, right? I think we should have it shortly, Lisa.
I believe so.
I think so. Is that the one that I had last year? I shared it with somebody up here on the dais. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you and I talked
I have it
about
in my office.
Yeah, you and I spoke about the voucher. There was a few different things that I did.
Yeah.
The elected officials one, and I also have the 5 traditional forms of government. I can't even talk.
Yeah,
about
they
this.
were all approved, so I don't know
Yeah,
what
so-
phase they are in.
Yeah.
The website's on the bottom. And by the way, that's not the only thing that's put out. There are actual, if you want to get to the statutes, you can get the statutes and get the annotations in addition to that. This is just a complete setting forth of the statutes of the optional municipal charter law, and covers all of these things. But just to make sure, there are cases, there are some annotations. If you'd like those, we have to print some more stuff out for you.
Spares.
So, Ken, if, which I think the council, the majority of the council, I'm not speaking for the council, are going to put together a form of government change, regardless of which one we opt, there's a petition language that we need, correct?
Well, the petition actually comes from the public, right?
Yeah, yes.
See, that's your copy, that's it.
Oh.
No, the language on the petition for them to sign.
Yes.
I think I asked this question last time, and that's, where does that language come from?
The people who have the petition,
The public.
the public.
The public write their own language on what it is the petition's for?
Yes, but we write the language of what goes on the ballot.
That's what,
On the
so I
ballot
guess
is
that's
not
what,
the ballot is not what's on the petition.
So-
The public does the petition.
Bob, just like when they did the petition for the field, okay, that was a little bit different because that was a ordinance that we were petitioning for. Sure, he never understands. I should just say that. Next time Ken says something, say, I don't understand.
that was my question.
Thank you, Siri.
Thank you, Siri.
Anyway, when your voters petition something, they come up with their own language, as opposed to when they petition an appeal of an ordinance, which we had, which was very specific language, if I'm incorrect. So that would have to come from the, just like they did the other one, a committee with, I think, 3 or 4 named people, and then those people would have to go out and get the requisite number of signatures from, and the clerk would give us that number, because there's a percentage of how many people either voted in the last general election, or...
So it's 20%. So, I'm sorry.
Again,
sir.
I don't know,
I don't
but
wanna
anyway,
interrupt
they
you. So
come up with the language, the verbatim.
Okay, so
what they
let
want.
me just shortcut the conversation. So I can sit down and write something that says, we, the public, would like to change the form of government and then have lines with all their signatures on it. And obviously, we'd have to name the form of government that the public was looking at.
That's my understanding.
Is that what we're saying, Ken?
The public has to do the petition, correct.
Right, okay. And then when it goes on the ballot,
Then we
that's
have,
different.
there's specific language
Okay,
that the
all
church
right.
lays
So
out.
then I
that-
misunderstood.
yeah.
I thought there was some legal jargon that had to be done. Because I remember with the field, I thought there was a specific wording that was needed, but if that's not the case, that's fine then.
Again, that was an ordinance that had specific language, that said exactly what was in the ordinance. X amount
Okay.
of dollars for blah, blah project, for whatever it may be.
Okay. Thank you.
Bus huts moving along?
Yeah, so this is just the bus hut over by Spice, you know, besides falling apart, it's just the horror story. I don't know how the one is by Seasons, because I don't get on that one. But can we order new bus huts and put it in the budget, or have it cleaned up? The roof is falling off, the shingles are all over the floor, the benches are filthy.
My major concern with those bus huts is there's no egress in there. There's
Well,
only
that's-
one
I
way
know.
in and one way out. That bothers me.
Yeah, but they're both bad, but, you know, for the people, the residents that's standing there is even worse.
I understand. And I want it to look nice, I want it to be comfortable, but I want it to be safe as well. So if I got something coming at me and I can't get out, I'm gonna be a little worried. The only way to get out is to go towards danger. I don't like that. That's a major concern.
Well, can we clean them up in the interim,
Sure.
Peter?
Yeah, of course, we'll have the
May I
DMF
give you the-
go out there.
Since we're getting doors, let's cut some holes in there, put a door in.
Thank you.
You've seen them, Peter, right? There's no way out.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it's always a balance of safety and comfort.
Sure.
Because with it being surrounded three sides, the wind can't blow in as
I
easily.
understand.
But we'll find a happy medium if we
Sure.
can, yeah.
Do we own those? Or do we maintain them? Do we?
Yeah, Ross.
They're awesome.
Yeah, she
So
bought,
assuming
Anna Mae said she
liability.
bought them from Pennsylvania or something at one time.
Well, I know we put it up, but
They maintain them when, not well, but they maintained.
They being us, Bob, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
DMF.
Moving on, Mr. Bruno, you had a question about the nomination of the Recreation Director?
I guess I was busy on this.
Yeah, you were
agenda.
very busy.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Yeah, so the rec director actually right now is the motion fell to the floor, nothing happened, so I wanted to nominate Dave Terwilliger as the new recreation director.
Okay, so you know you can't do that, right?
No, I don't.
Well, I think it was explained a couple times already, the director, the submission of a name for director can only come from the mayor. You can give your consent or not, but as far as coming up with an actual appointee, that is only the mayor's function, not yours.
Okay, so then I'd like to ask the mayor to consider Dave Terwilliger as the new recreation director.
I'll give it some thought.
So you'll let us know?
Yes.
I believe your final item, Mr. Bruno, is the town property behind the doghouse?
No, there's more, but
You
that's
guys got
okay.
more?
Oh, you got another one, I'm sorry.
Couple more, there's a couple more.
That's what happens when you stay in a hotel for 3 nights a week. Yeah, so the property behind the doghouse, which I think is town property, from everybody says, I don't know if it is or it isn't, but it's.
It is,
There's two lots.
there is property right there, correct.
So is the garage our property? There's a garage there, two-car garage. If you go down the, what's the street, the Manhattan, not Manhattan, Hudson?
Hudson.
Yeah, so there's a two-car garage there, there's, looks like there's touch-of-class landscapers, there's a boat, there's everything in there, and it's just a horror story. And if it's our property, I guess I'm questioning, why are we allowing it to look like that?
Bob, in the past, we looked at that property. There's actually two parcels, if I'm not mistaken, and there's an easement for the bar that goes in between. And at one time, some of the property, the northern parcel that we own had other person's property on it, and we had that, I guess, taken care of, abated by the enforcement officer. Now, I don't know if more stuff has been moved back on there but that was a problem at one time. So I'll ask the mayor if they can look into that and make sure it's with.
I'll ask
if
Gary
there's
to
any-
take a look at
yeah,
it.
if there's any,
So
you know,
the
equipment
property
on there.
where the landscaper parks is ours? Wow.
Is it
Yeah,
both?
that-
I thought it was the vacant land on the other side.
No, it's
Well, we
both.
own both sides, from my
sides.
understanding.
I mean, there's
If I'm not
propane
mistaken,
tanks,
and
there's
Barry and
boats,
you-
it's a horror story. I mean, and this is our town.
And
this
there's
is us.
liability issues.
Of
It's
course
a big
there is.
liability issue, huge.
We were looking at one time to, you know, maybe move some DMF
We
stuff.
also, somebody was looking for a cell tower, no?
Yes, cell tower, everyone's looking for cell tower.
We need to
Putting it up
get
there.
that cleared up.
Yeah, yeah, that was the southern portion, I think, right? They want to provide a little lake there or whatever, so.
Years ago.
We'll get Gary right on it.
Okay.
Okay.
But Bob, why did you want to do something with that property, or just
Yeah,
you were
clean
worried
it
about
up.
its
I mean,
appearance?
it's a disaster. Anything that's our property, I think, should look like a town that cares about itself. You know, we talk about beautification, you drive there, it's just a horror story. It's really, I don't know, I mean, obviously, there are people that have, for some reason, using it for their own purposes, but it's just a disaster. I mean, that the whole garage should be knocked down, I mean, you know, put a dog walk in there or something, I don't know, but just, it's horrible.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Bruno?
No.
Tiger Grant update, Mr. Cassio?
Yeah, it looks like the Tiger Grant may not be applicable for the intersection, but the Congressman Gottheimer's office is still working with us, see if he can help us out somehow, but probably it's unrealistic for this year to get anything at this point, because the due date is fast approaching. We don't have any information, or enough information to make application at this point, so. But we'll still work on it. If we can get something, I don't think the intersection's going in anytime soon, unfortunately, so I think we have some time.
1033A update?
1033A, Lieutenant Skinner's working on that with, I believe, Hillsdale. He's made some contacts and registered with 3 or 4 different departments. Believe it or not, the closest disposition you would think would be Fort Dix to get the equipment, but it's actually in Pennsylvania somewhere. So, again, he's working on it with Hillsdale and I think Woodcliff Lake, if I'm not mistaken, so there's progress being made. What it is, there's 3 systems that they have to work with. They're antiquated, he says. So you have to register over here, you do funding here, and then you get the equipment over here, and then you have to get a transport to us. So it's a process. It's the federal government. You know, it's not gonna be an easy thing, but he is making progress and he's working on it. So hopefully, we can get some, you know, possibly a Humvee or a high water vehicle. I know the police need some equipment like vests and possibly firearms. Again, everything that they give us is on loan to us. We're supposed to maintain it, we can put our decals on it if we want, but ultimately it's a federal government making the loan program to us for equipment that they're not using. So, that's the update.
Next thing is Quest, Mr. Bruno. You had some questions?
I just want to know what we're doing with that house that we have to get in there.
Yes, the last letter came back undelivered. I'm preparing the papers to go to court. I spoke with Mr. Foster from Quest. We have to make an application to the court to get a court order to force them to let us on. So it's a court matter at this point.
So what's the timeframe on that?
It's gonna take a little time because we have to do the supporting documents, getting Mr. Forster involved, making the application to the court, giving notification to the homeowner, a return day for the order to show cause. I think I told you last time, a few months. Didn't I tell you a couple months last time? I think I told you, yeah. I think I told you that. Yeah. Still is.
So does Mr. Foster still believe we should
Do this.
not do this, wait for this sample to be
Yeah, I
done?
asked him. As a matter of fact, I personally.
Or should we spend the $2,000 extra and not sample this and do it at a later date?
Well, the problem is that I asked him if he would do the report and file it with DEP without this, you know, have a reserve for this. He won't.
He won't, okay.
won't.
So that
So-
option is out.
That option's out, so.
I had asked the same question, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
kind of few
I know we had
days ago.
asked,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
he said it would
yeah,
cost us
yeah.
probably $2,000 and.
What he said was, he said, we could sample the other wells. You know, there were several other wells too. And he says, we could sample the other wells, you know, and then do this well afterwards. I said, okay, so would that get us down with it, finally with DEP? He said, no.
So it's
So
still
that's
wouldn't-
so I'm saying, so what is the point of
Yeah,
doing
it doesn't make sense.
He's just saying it would be did I say a nice thing to do? It would be a thing to, like, if he were gonna do every single thing as an environmental person, he might do this, but it's not gonna get us any closer to the DEP.
Okay.
But if we sample the other wells and they're, let's say, either very clean or extremely dirty, won't that eliminate the need to get onto that property?
No, the delineation is the most important thing. You have to get the outside perimeter of.
That's on an outside perimeter?
Yeah, yeah, so you know, you can't, you have to have that. And that was quite a contaminated area, so.
It was smack in the middle, you could probably extrapolate, is that the word? Extrapolate the data, but
Well,
you can't. It's
The one
kinda
thing I
hard
learned,
to
the one thing I learned about the rock formation is very difficult to extrapolate.
do. I'm sure.
No.
I can go down there and post a letter on the front door.
I guess I understand that we're trying to create a delineation, but if the five wells that we can test are very bad, they have bad readings, then whether it's good or bad, we're gonna have a problem that we need to address.
No, we don't have a problem getting into the other wells. We have no problem getting into. We have no problem with
And
that.
I think they were clean the last time.
And they may have been clean.
I think those are, I don't know, but
I don't remember.
I kind of think that they were a non-issue.
They just don't get us to the DEP, which is really what we want.
May I ask?
I guess the question is.
But if they're crap, if they're pure
Yeah, but we
crap.
don't know where the plume is, we don't know what the plume is doing on that one side by that house, and that's why he won't submit it to DEP, because he's saying, I can sample all around the plume
But he
and
can shoot
hopefully
out there.
delineate, but I don't know this side of the plume, what's going on, because I don't have access to that one sample. So therefore, I understand what you're saying, Mr.
But if
Ullman.
they-
If they're all crap, they're all crap, but.
They're all crap, and then why do we have to go to court if we know we still have an issue?
Well, first of all,
Gotta
we're
test
only-
it sometime.
Well, first of all, this is not a major lawsuit of like going to court with a major lawsuit. This is kind of a very finite application saying to
Understood.
This is not throwing the whole DEP thing in, getting involved with that. This is just a very finite
Get
thing.
one well to get on their property
Yeah.
to sample one
Yeah, and
well.
then say, Your Honor, we need to file with DEP. We have two wells on there.
There's two wells on
There's
that.
2 wells. We need the access. We've offered this, and they haven't, and we need your help. And court's gonna say, okay, go, and then he'll get his samples, and then he'll be able to file his report.
Just gotta wait for the court.
Can I ask a question? Is it possible that me or someone else could go down there with copies of this letter
She did that.
and hand them to anyone who answers the door?
I tried,
Personal
and
service is as good as certified
I
letters.
went there twice.
And no one answered the door?
A young kid did. And at that point, I asked them to call, and I gave my phone number, and then when the second time when I hadn't heard from them, I brought the letter down, and they didn't answer the door.
The problem is that they don't like the idea of the town coming on their property to take the samples, even though it's only just like opening the well and taking the sample. I mean, there's no construction
No.
or
We're
drilling.
not drilling these new
There's
samples.
nothing.
I've seen.
Yeah, so,
I understand.
look, they're clear, and they have been spoken to by Quest in the past, and it's a hostile situation. So it is what it is. I mean,
Okay.
just unfortunate.
In your estimation, a good time would be 4 months from now, 5 months from now, you get a court order? How long?
I'm
when you're-
hoping less than that.
Okay.
I'm hoping less than that, yeah.
Anything else, gentlemen, on file? Mr. Bruno, the recreation fee disparity?
Well, Sue went out and polled several towns, and I guess they all came back with their information. It was I mean, I haven't really looked at it, so I think it's something we should look at to see what we want to do with our fees. I know somebody talked about football tonight, and I guess one of my big concerns with football is I didn't realize that a football coordinator who has us enrolled in a league, he actually is the president of the league, and I believe his brother's the treasurer, so I don't know if that's a conflict of interest, Peter, do you think?
Asking me or Ken?
You?
I have no idea. I mean, this is the first time hearing of it, but
Ken?
I have no idea.
I'm sorry, I was doing something.
So a football coordinator has us enrolled in a league. Our town is enrolled in a league where he's the president. They formed the corporation, he's the president, I believe his brother's a treasurer. So, you know, our fees are going into their kitty, and I don't know if there's any remuneration that happens there or not, but to me, I think it's a conflict of interest to have a coordinator enroll the town into an organization that he runs.
Okay, so, I mean, before I would comment on it, because conflicts are very, very specific things, I would need to know all the facts and verify all the facts before I would actually take a look and see whether it's a conflict. Conflicts are very, very serious things, and they have to be very, very specific.
Right, so,
I would do by email.
what's the, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ann.
Lawson?
So Ann, you can get the information from Ann. She submitted their organization and their, you know, when they were formed and who's the officers. So she's got all that information. And I just
Yeah,
know
but I
that we're
think
enrolled, we enrolled the football into that league,
Superintendent
so.
of Recreation.
Well, I guess we could pull
She
the
didn't
tax
raise the issue.
returns and
Bob
see
asked
if
the
there's anybody
question.
getting any kind of income.
Well, okay, so Ann Lawson, this is?
Anne responded to a request by Bob or someone else for this information. She passed it on.
Do you have that, Bob?
I have her email, yeah.
Well, no, you have the information that she sent to you.
It's in an email. I mean, she can forward it to you. Or Sue, did you?
Yeah, but she's not gonna,
She doesn't even know who I am, I mean.
no, and I think Ken should, I mean, Bob might put his slant on what the, because I don't think it's apparent when you read that what your
But-
issue
I don't
is.
put my slant on anything. I just brought up a point. There's no slant. There's a point. It's a very basic point. The organization they belong to is run by.
Yeah, all right, all right.
Wait, can I have some
But
people at once?
Peter's gonna put me in touch with her, I'll find out from
All
her.
right.
Not a problem, not a problem.
There's no slant. It's just fact.
All right, moving on. Ordinances and legislation, codification.
I know Ken and I sent a lot of stuff to Ken. I know he's working on it, so I'm just, this is just on the list, that's all.
Yeah, and I have been in touch with General Code, and they have all that we've done so far. They're preparing a further manuscript. I'm also cleaning up a couple of other small issues. There's one that I have to do something with in terms of the health, some of the health provisions.
Okay.
Not exactly an expert on all the health stuff, but the codes needs to be updated with respect to that.
Okay.
And I believe he's gone.
So the sanitary code or the
whole-
or the advisory board?
Not the board, no, the health, yeah, the sanitary code and all that kind of stuff. All the state laws changed, codes changed, stuff
You can
like
talk to
that.
Angela then.
Okay.
Talk to Angela, and then she's our health officer.
All right, I'll come down to the town hall, and speak with her.
No, she's out of, Warwick.
She's in Waldwick.
Oh, I'll go to Wall.
By Answer's
Can I
Tavern,
wait-
right next door to Answer's Tavern. You can
No,
go.
I'll go to Andreas, I'll go to Andreas.
Limousine and other permitted home occupancy, we already discussed that. Anything else we want to add to that?
That was
Could I suggest that next time, maybe, you will have thought about this further, kind of listing maybe some ideas, or if you want, put them in writing and you can give them to me at the meeting, and we can talk a little bit about it, and get something started, if you like, just throwing something out.
Okay.
Ken, even though it's not my area, now it's the council's area, Can an ordinance be drafted in such a way that you don't have to define what's going on in the home occupation, but based on, like we said before, number of people who would come into the home based on the business?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we're talking about saying you can do Amazon and ordering, but you can't do this kind of ordering, you know. No, I think it would be more generic, you know, like internet based things with maybe.
It's almost the sky's the
Yeah, I
limit
mean,
to try and.
Yeah, no. What I'm talking about is you know, more generic type stuff.
When we were asking the gentleman about his business, he said, I don't have employees coming to my,
Which is one of the things, right?
I don't have any signage on the exterior.
Right.
I don't have, you know, my vehicles, there's one vehicle and it's
Right.
non-signed. So I think maybe that is where Peter was going to, or some derivative
Okay,
of it.
yeah, okay.
Like, can you define it in that manner as opposed to the type?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that like, for example, suppose, would you think that somebody who has no signage and whatever has a computer but orders like a ton of stuff for deliveries at his house?
It's happened here in town.
Huh?
We've had that happen in town already.
Okay, so I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I mean, a ton of deliveries, would you think that that's an okay use?
No.
See, then, what I'm saying is that let's talk about it, we'll work something out, and I think it's a combination of no employees, no, you know, visitors, parking, no signage.
Deliveries.
You know,
Deliveries.
from internal, from machines or from computers, et cetera, in the house, okay, phones, okay, provided it doesn't involve, you know, something like that, you know, I mean, just something.
Does it have to be an incorporated business, or is it an activity? So, for instance,
It does not have to be an incorporated business.
So-
Any activity that you do, if it's a use that's not permitted in your house, whether you're incorporated or not, it's a violation.
So the company I work for gives me full mobility with a laptop and VPN, and if it's crappy outside, don't have to commute in, I could work at my house.
You do? Okay.
violation.
Could you let Gary,
So,
that's okay.
but, so I
Technically,
guess,
if you look at the statute,
I
it's
know.
a violation.
you know,
Quit.
we're providing a laptop to a member of staff, so she could work at home, potentially.
Probably
You know, so we're,
80% of the
like,
households
perpetuating that.
Are in violation.
So I guess
Yeah.
that's my question, you know.
No, so, this is the point I'm trying to say, that we should allow for that kind of work at home, because there's no impact,
No, I'll be fine not working at home.
you know what I'm saying? It won't, the whole thing is, what is the impact on the
Okay.
neighborhood? That's the whole thing.
Okay.
But I will say this
And the
too,
property
it may
values
be,
and so on.
for example, internet work, like, for example, you were talking about not allowing marijuana sales in town. I'm not, you know, taking a position one way or the other, but I heard some people like, let's get an ordinance to stop it. I mean, if somebody was.
Well, Westwood is preparing one right
Okay,
now.
but what I was just saying, you know, if somebody was doing marijuana, internet with marijuana sales, maybe you would say, okay, that's not a permitted. Like, it's up to you guys.
Okay.
I'm just throwing stuff out, you know,
I believe
you
a
might
couple
sell,
of
or
surrounding
selling
towns are-
guns, or selling other things that, you know, who knows? Just give it some thought.
There
I mean,
was,
I don't think this is a, you know,
It's not a rocket science.
this is not a rocket
Ordinance.
science thing, but I
Ordinance.
think it's,
Needs to be updated.
just needs to be updated, and, but also making sure that there isn't like a hole that a truck can drive through and do something that you really say, oh my gosh.
what did we
this
let
is-
happen?
Yeah, what would we let in? Because
Okay.
right now, people are really protected because it's very limited, so.
Okay.
Maybe if we could ask Sue or someone to, like what she did with the rec fees, see what some other towns surrounding, if they've
Sure.
already gone through this
Sure.
exercise.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we can get an idea from them.
I know when we did it in the town I'm in, one of the things we carved out was if you're seeing people at your house or not.
Right,
Yeah,
that's one of the
whether-
things you
yeah.
can't.
Some towns don't allow any home businesses.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Washington Township is one of the few that actually does.
Yeah.
You know, like Paramus, the houses are grandfathered. You can't even start one if you want.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, I went through it. Trying to find a home office is was almost impossible in Bergen County, in most towns.
Does that make your house very valuable, Stephen?
No. You know, you never look where you should look first. Right. I looked everywhere, like Oakland, Hey.
Last thing is municipal and county budget, certifying compliance with federal civil rights requirements. Sue, that one's yours.
Well, I had brought it up, showed it to Mary Ann, who had also seen it herself, and I told her I went to a meeting, and this was brought up at my meeting, and we had a conversation among the clerks. So I had asked Mary Ann to double check. It's about hiring and doing background checks, and I believe, Mary Ann, you said you spoke to the chief and...
We're all clear. The hiring that I do is in compliance, and the PD does their own hiring, and they're in compliance, so I said it's all okay, but I guess Sue wanted to have it on the conference first.
Yeah, and then this way, there is a sample resolution that comes with it, and this needs to be adopted before we introduce, or at the same time as we introduce the budget, which is going to be coming up in the near future. Plus, we have to do another group affidavit as we do with the audit every year. So I'll
Can we
have
just,
that taken care of.
can we just do that now? It looks like, it's like a no-brainer.
Well, also Ashley needs to certify on this as well.
Okay. All right.
So I can prepare for
It's all
the
cookie
next
cutter.
meeting.
Nothing here is a no-brainer.
It is, if you use your brain.
Moving along on the agenda, we're gonna move, resolution number 18-157, motion to go into closed session
Mike,
for
before
tax.
we go into close, I just want to bring up maybe one thing we skipped over. Now that the council has at least 90% of the budget, do you guys want to schedule some dates to
Yes.
start to review?
Absolutely.
So before we go into closed.
And I will point out that your budget document is probably 20, 30 pages lighter because I deleted out all those accounts.
Good going.
Saving paper.
No, it's a big cleanup. There's a lot of stuff.
Paper
in
and
there.
time.
When did we want to schedule?
Well, I'm tied up during the week this night. I mean, I can come in Saturday morning. I'm gonna review it all week, I'll tell you that much. I won't be able to get back, I don't think.
Do we want to schedule something for the Saturday morning, the 17th? Give everybody some time to digest this, or is pushing it too far out, Bob?
No, this Saturday.
This Saturday, I'm sorry. Saturday, the 10th?
Yeah, I mean, we have to start.
Yep.
It's just I can't get back this week. During the week, the other nights, I'll figure it out.
And also, I don't know if you're in a position just yet, you know, I encourage and I want some department heads to be there. If you can let me know the dates that you want certain department heads there, you know, obviously the more notice I can give them, the better.
So first meeting, February 10th at 10:30. Does that work for everybody?
Oh, that's late.
That's late?
Right, do
Oh,
it.
8 o'clock?
See, it's 6, get up.
9?
9 to
6.
9:30? 6.
6 a.m. or p.m.?
First of all, we're lucky we got a date, first of all.
Right.
Yeah.
We're
So that's
pushing it
good.
now.
So February 10th, what time, gentlemen?
9:15. We'll
9:15?
split the difference with Mr. Cohen. How's that sound?
Thank you.
February 10th, 9:15? Is that good, Mr. Bruno?
Yep.
I will bring the pastry. Someone.
I'll bring the coffee.
You bring the coffee.
Is,
Sugar-free?
Sure.
what,
Can I just make a request that you maybe look at the capital first, so that you can start thinking about any ordinances that have to be introduced and adopted? Just something,
Do you think we'll have some kind of salary ordinance by then, Mr. Mayor?
by when, the 10th? You don't need the salary ordinance for a capital.
Capital, we don't.
You know, the problem doing the capital, though, is you have to do the appropriations to see where you're at. Then we have to see what we want to pull from the,
No, it's actually the opposite.
hear me out for a minute. I mean, my thought process, just mine, would be go through the appropriations, look at everything that we have in these old ordinances, because that has to come back, which can be used and possibly plunked right into the capital. If we draw down on some of the surplus, you know, the idea would be to possibly use some of that in capital, either as the intersection and/or as a cushion going into the year, just in case. So it's kind of a, you know, it's kind of an all-around type view. So, I mean, we can talk about it. I'll take a look at it for sure, though.
I see what you're saying. However, that could be maybe the proverbial fire under, you know, someone to get that project done. And also, it does affect what you decide to do. Capital does affect what you put in your capital improvement fund line in your budget.
Agree.
So I do know that there was a concern from the CFO about the lack of capital surplus or capital improvement fund because it was down so low.
Agreed.
And that's something the mayor took into consideration in the current fund budget. There's a funding line in the capital improvement fund. But
But again,
whatever.
I mean, we can discuss it, but this is money that can be pulled from surplus also versus tax to the people. It's a fine line. I mean, we have, my idea, just my idea, would be to look at the surplus, all the money that's available, see what we want to leave, see what we want to pull, see what we want to pull into capital, and see what we want to apply against the appropriations, the regular funding.
All right, so let's start the discussion Saturday at 9:15.
Yep. Yep.
And move on from there. Very quickly, there's only been 608 dog licenses issued to date compared to about 815 of last year. So hopefully, we have some residents that are going to get their dog licenses, and also cat licenses are 42 to date versus 53 of last year, and the parking permits are all sold at 60 so far. Just a quick little update. Thank you, Sue. So get your dog and cat licenses if you haven't done so already. I sound like Bob Barker now. Resolution number 18-157, closed session tax appeals COA. Motion to enter into closed session.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yep.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman DeSena?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
They're all in there.